Happy Saturday once again, everyone. It is a beautiful, sunny Saturday afternoon for a wingy, and I'm trying to get up here a little bit earlier than we usually go live on Saturdays because NXT Stand and Deliver goes live in about an hour and 40 minutes. So 7 Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific here for me. Stand and Deliver goes live, and I didn't want this podcast to bleed into that very much, especially if some of you have plans to watch Stand and Deliver tonight, which I do not, but I know some of you do. So I don't want to take away too much of that. I think worst case scenario, this podcast might bleed into the first match a little, but it shouldn't be so bad in terms of Stand and Deliver because the wrestling news is rather light. We had a couple of things to talk about in terms of comings and goings and some interesting things going on, behind the scenes in wrestling in terms of wrestling news, but not very heavy in the news department. What we're really going to be talking about is last night's very, very disappointing Smackdown where Pat McAfee was revealed as Randy Orton's mystery caller, and oh my God, the internet has been loving that. Way to go, WWE, making a lot of friends out there and doing a lot of things to really boost the enthusiasm for this year's WrestleMania. Holy shit. Pat McAfee, huh? We're going to talk all about that. So we'll be breaking down last night's Smackdown. We're going to get into a little bit of wrestling news. We're also going to take a look at the entire WrestleMania card as it stands right now. We're also going to break down Dynamite a little bit from this past Wednesday. Talk about this past Thursday's Collision as well, although nothing too major happened on that show. And we'll run through what the card is looking like right now for Dynasty, which is 1 week from tomorrow. So we got a lot going on. It's going to be a busy week here on the channel. And today's podcast should be a fun one. And like I said, since the news is kind of light, I have a feeling we should get most of this done before Stand and Deliver starts here in a little over an hour and a half. But thank you to everyone who is here today. We will be getting into everything in just a second. I will say some hellos in the chat here, and then I will let you guys know what to expect on the channel here in the next couple of days. But happy Saturday again to everyone. Let me just say hi to our friends like Rodrigo. Good to see Tatanani in here. We got Nick Musser, Mike Rouse, handsome Steve Jacobson. That makes two of us. Trey Lucado. Good to see Ryan Adams. Unrattled is here as well. We got Ben Espinoza, David Brown, Gilbert, Big Funds, HC. Coco Anarchy is here as well. Good to see Shell Shock, Denny Downbad. We got Spencer Cummings, Spencer D. Dunnings. I'm sorry. No, Spencer Dunnings. I went from Spencer Cummings to Spencer D. Dunnings to Spencer Dunning. Good to see you, Spencer. Always a pleasure. Michael Games is in here as well. Anybody else chiming in to say hello? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. As always, do me a favor. Thumbs up button. Smash it. Most of you are subscribers, but if you're not, make sure you become one. Memberships are open. So are Super Chats. We'll answer them all today. And we are going to open up here in just a second with the Smackdown review from last night, which was absolutely atrocious. Also want to let you guys know, tomorrow is Easter. I am working in the morning. It's unclear what time I'm going to be home. I actually think I will be home in time to do a watch-along tomorrow night, but I'm not sure, and I don't want to schedule one if I'm not going to be here. So we have no watch-along scheduled for tomorrow because it is Easter Sunday. We were up here on Thursday night, kind of a late one, to watch two Saturday night's main event episodes that preceded WrestleMania 4 and WrestleMania 5. One of those episodes had an audio issue on Peacock. It sounded all feedbacky and it just sucked. So my plan was to post both full reactions over on Patreon in their entirety with the footage, but when I was putting together the second one and that audio issue, I just didn't like it. So only one of those Saturday night's main events, the 1988 one before WrestleMania 4, that is up in its entirety with the footage over on Patreon, free to everyone. I'm posting reactions over there every so often on Patreon, and there is no charge to subscribe. All you have to do is subscribe, and you can access all the content that's possible over there. So in the event that we do a special watch-along that everyone can't be here for, especially one that's on Peacock, and not everybody has Peacock, in any event that we do that type of watch-along, I will always post the full reaction over on Patreon the next day. So if you want to check that out, you can. And Thursday was kind of the makeup for tomorrow since we're not going to be here for a classic watch-along to watch another WrestleMania. But we will be here the following week. It's April 12th, 1 week from tomorrow. We're going to be here to watch and review AEW Dynasty, so I will have a link to that stream up this week in the next couple days as well, and we will probably bust out predictions for Dynasty 1 week from today, April 11th, which will be the 16th anniversary of the YouTube channel. 1 week from today, we'll be back for the Winged Eagle, or for the Wingy, excuse me, to discuss whatever's going on next week and to predict AEW Dynasty. And I believe next Saturday, probably after the podcast, is the big Penta versus Vikingo match in AAA for the Intercontinental title. So a lot going on here next week, but unfortunately no classic watch-along tomorrow. But I think we will be here for sure on Monday, even though I haven't really seen anything advertised for this Monday's Raw. We're going to get a follow-up to Gunther and Rollins, probably going to get some more Brock and Oba stuff, so we will be here Monday night after Raw to review the show, since we're not going to be here tomorrow for a watch-along. Suppose we could do a watch-along of Raw, too, but I don't think so. I think we'll just do a review. I think a review is better on Monday night so we can catch up on things. So anyway, that's what to expect here in the next couple of days, and I think our top story today, what we need to open with here on the podcast, is Smackdown. Last night's horrific, atrocious, terrible Smackdown that the entire wrestling universe is taking a big, fat, steaming dump on top of. And I don't blame them. Ay. Now, luckily for me, I was working last night, so I was kind of eyeballing my phone, and they kind of teased that we were going to get the Randy Orton mystery caller revealed, but I was skeptical as to whether or not we were actually going to get that. And this is before we learned it was McAfee. So I'm wondering, I'm like, are we really going to get it, or is it going to be some sort of a tease or something to throw us off the scent in order to give us a even bigger reveal at WrestleMania? That's kind of what I thought we might see. But as we saw last night on SmackDown, we're going to kind of get into we're going to get right into our review here, because it does open up with all of this nonsense. And that's what I want to talk about. So it's the Randy Orton promo last night, which was in St. Louis. So WWE already has a problem of fans not wanting to boo Randy Orton and cheering him every time he's laying a beatdown on Cody or Jelly Roll or anybody else. And, so now he's in St. Louis. So, of course, he's going to be receiving this warm welcome, and he goes on to cut his promo. And, talks about the match with Cody, talks about Stephanie McMahon's involvement in this, and says that she was right. Cody cannot beat this version of Randy Orton. And also Cody gave him his blessing to be the Viper and all of that stuff. And there's just no way Cody is going to be able to get past this version of Randy Orton. So when Randy Orton is done saying his piece, out comes Cody Rhodes. He immediately gets in the ring and starts brawling with Randy Orton. He's got Orton in the corner and he's pummeling him. And then you could see the crowd kind of reacting to somebody coming in, and lo and behold, it's Pat McAfee wearing jeans, ripped jeans, mind you, a big-ass obnoxious cowboy belt buckle or some shit, and then he's got Randy Orton's t-shirt on and some douchebag sunglasses, and he gets in the ring, and Cody turns around like, what are you doing here? And McAfee just kicks him right in the penis. Down goes Cody Rhodes, and Randy Orton then starts pummeling Cody with the chair, and he's kicking his ass while McAfee is talking shit on the mic. So he gets on the mic, and he mentions something that we covered here a few weeks back on the podcast when I think it was on his show, and he was asked when he was going to be going back to WWE, and he kind of said that, he feels like he doesn't have a place in the business right now, and he's probably going to be stepping away from it, and we were all ecstatic about that. Good. We don't really need you around. I don't dislike Pat McAfee at all. I didn't really mind his involvement too much until he was just a little bit crammed down our throats, a little bit too much of him on commentary. The Gunther match was kind of a turnoff, and McAfee can perform when he gets in the ring. He does it. He performed well against Adam Cole, against Gunther, against other guys he's gotten in the ring with. He has entertainment value to him. I'm just not a big, huge fan of the guy to the point where I really think he helps business in any way. So when it's just McAfee all the time, I think a lot of fans were kind of growing tired of him. And when he stepped away, I don't think anybody was really shedding any tears. So he brought that up. But then he said the reason that he stepped away is because, listen to this, the product is shit. So you've got entities in your two WrestleMania main events, Roman Reigns and now Pat McAfee, both acknowledging that your product sucks. And McAfee talks about the shit product. He talks about the Attitude Era fan base, people like him. He brought up the what chance, which didn't come around until the Attitude Era was done. So, I mean, for the most part anyway. So the what chance didn't even become a thing until it was WWE. It wasn't even WWF anymore. And threw out an if you smell, and he talks about how those fans have been forgotten about. And he left because he doesn't like turning on the TV to see 5 guys having 45-minute Iron Man matches with each other 5 times a week for no reason. It's like this shit again. Talks about the bad WrestleMania ticket sales and Smackdown coming off of its worst rating of all time. They're saying this in wrestling promos. You got Roman Reigns and Punk acknowledging the shit product, and now you're doing the same thing in the Randy Orton and Cody main event. It's pretty crazy. And McAfee is basically like, why is any of this stuff happening? Why are these 5 guys having the Iron Man matches? Why does the product suck? Why does WrestleMania have bad ticket sales? Why did SmackDown just come off its worst rating of all time? Why is any of this happening when Randy Orton is still around? And the crowd is still, even during all of this, very pro Randy Orton. Like, I don't think they were happy about Pat McAfee, but they were still cheering for Randy Orton during all of this. So Pat McAfee has been revealed as Randy Orton's mystery caller, and it doesn't sound like this is a red herring. This doesn't sound like this is something to throw us off and they're going to reveal some sort of a bigger surprise at WrestleMania. From what we can understand and what we've learned about since Pat McAfee's involvement last night is that this was a decision that came outside of WWE Creative. And the belief right now is it came directly from Ari Emanuel, who just so happens to represent Pat McAfee. And of course, Ari is Pat's agent. He wants him to be, remember that story about him wanting Pat McAfee to be the next Sylvester Stallone, and he's trying to get him in movie deals, and he's doing something with Tulsa King and all this shit, and Ari really seems to think that Pat McAfee has the capability of being some worldwide megastar for some reason, and it's believed that he is the one that handed down this edict, get Pat McAfee involved, because Ari believes that due to the lacking ticket sales and whatnot, and plus WrestleMania this year is going to air on ESPN for the first time. A portion of the show is going to air on ESPN. So I think this is all due to that, to try to strengthen the views for that airing, to strengthen the overall interest surrounding WrestleMania, to help boost ticket sales. Although I can't imagine McAfee coming in to be a part of this is going to have people running out there to buy tickets. And you're trying to connect with or touch a fan base that is so long gone. The Attitude Era fans are the people that watch during the Monday Night Wars. If they have lapsed and they haven't watched wrestling in 20 years, they're certainly not going to tune in now and see McAfee there and be like, oh, this is what I've been missing. What the fuck are they even talking about here? And so this to me is a really good example, and I think it's going to be something we're always going to have to deal with WWE. This right here is the true horror of TKO, because you have people now, it's not just Triple H in charge of everything. He is not the final say. You can have people above him saying, hey, we need you to do this, this, or this, and then they've got to shoehorn or write something last minute or try to fit someone into a story that doesn't require it. Like the fact that they feel that's the stupidity of people who are owning or in charge of a wrestling company that don't know anything about wrestling. This is the problem WCW had. And, with the revolving door of bookers and whatnot, and people not knowing jack shit about wrestling, trying to put in their 2 cents and whatnot. And Ari Emanuel, he's not going to know this, but most fans agree that there is enough meat on the Cody and Randy Orton bone, 20 years of history between these two guys, that none of this shit should be needed at all. And they're doing the same thing with Punk and Roman Reigns. Like, what is all this old stuff? There's some good, juicy dirt and stuff in there, with these guys and the relationship and their history and Punk's absence from the WWE and his time in AEW and Roman's rise to the top. There's so much you could do there in storyline to make that issue between them personal without having to touch anything about either man's age. And now you look over here with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, it's a feud, it's a program that should essentially write itself. And yet you're adding all of these elements that are completely unnecessary. And it's because you have people like Ari who don't know the first thing about wrestling. And this is going to keep happening, especially if performance is low on a particular show in terms of ticket movement or anything like that. Then you're going to have your higher ups start having these brilliant ideas. The same thing happened last year when Elimination Chamber tickets were low. And I believe it was Ari who phoned up The Rock, who then showed up at Elimination Chamber, did the whole thing about Cody's soul and then was a part of John Cena's heel turn. And you thought Rock was going to be a part of this and, this could be one of the greatest things ever. No, it was just Ari making a phone call. Our tickets suck. Come on in and fool these fans, trick these fans into buying more seats and then just leave when it's over. Now they're bringing in Pat McAfee to be a part of this. And it's got to be the dumbest fucking thing I think I've ever seen WWE do. And you worry that this is going to be a thing anytime things are a little flat creatively. It makes you wonder if Triple H is even going to survive. Is this guy going to be the head of creative in 3 years' time? Is he going to be the head of creative in 2 years' time? I mean, the way it's going, I'm not saying they're necessarily going to fire Triple H, but it might get to the point where he doesn't want to deal with this shit anymore. These guys are not making it fun. And if the performance is not top notch, I mean, you would think this would be a good thing to really motivate Triple H and the creative team to produce good quality, intriguing television, and then none of this shit would be an issue. If your creative was going strong and everybody was stoked for Mania and you've put together your best card and you've got year-long storylines culminating at the big show and everybody's stoked for it and you got 70,000 seats sold for each night, then none of this Pat McAfee shit would be necessary at all. So part of it is on Triple H and the creative team, so they, Triple H has to decide if he wants to just be a yes man and just do whatever these fucking corporate yahoos want, or if he wants to book pro wrestling the way pro wrestling should be booked. Either way, I feel like it's going to add a lot of stress to Triple H. I mean, we don't know what his demeanor is, his mindset, what we do, blah, 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 or whatever. But you got to think inside, he's got to be very, frustrated or, maybe paranoid that I have to worry about these guys. It can't be any worse than worrying about Vince being a fucking bonkers, psycho. But, at least Vince is in the wrestling business, or in the rustling business, as Vince would say, rustling for entertainment. So at least Vince was in the rustling business. These guys are not. And when they're making decisions, especially creative decisions that translate to television storylines, that is not what you want at all. This is, back in WCW days, they brought in Jim Herd and he wanted to make a bunch of changes to Ric Flair and cut his hair and change his name and all this shit. And people don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. And it sounds like the only way WWE is going to keep itself safe is to produce good quality TV that produces good numbers. Right now, WWE's ticket sales are still tremendous. That's the thing now. Like, I don't think they're going to be drawing 12,000, 13,000, 10, 12, 13,000 for Raws and SmackDowns for very much longer. Eventually, that is going to taper off. They're doing great numbers for those shows right now, but eventually the ticket sales are going to catch up with the shit product, and you're going to see them slowly decline. But right now, their TVs are still doing great. Even though WrestleMania is down, they're only over 40. They're barely at 40,000 for each night. Now, there's 3 weeks left. They'll pack in an extra, big handful there, and they'll probably approach 50,000, and not a big deal, right? But there used to be a time when they used to have 70,000, 80,000. They used to go for attendance records at WrestleManias. Now it seems like they don't even care. If they made the tickets affordable, like they used to be, and you can have $10, $15, $20 tickets available in the cheap seats, they might be able to pack it out. But now, the way it's all structured, to maximize profits and whatnot, it's affecting the movement of those ticket sales. And now you're 3 weeks before the show and, they're 20% behind where they were last year, but none of that is going to be fixed by Ari Emanuel saying, hey, put Pat McAfee in the main event storyline or one of your main event storylines. That's not going to fix or improve or help anything. It's going to hurt it. And I hope Ari Emanuel has a fucking Twitter, right? I hope he's swam in the IWC pool a little bit in the last 24 hours, because I would assume he's got to be hearing it from all sides here. He's got to understand that these are just not things you can do. This is not the type of fan base to be doing shit like this. And I would like to be a big Ari fan. It was just about less than a year ago, just a few months ago, Elizabeth and I finished watching Entourage. I'd never watched the show Entourage before, and I never knew that Ari Gold, Jeremy Piven's character, is based off of Ari Emanuel. I never knew that before. And Jeremy Piven's character in that show is one of my favorite characters of all time. But in real life, I think Ari Emanuel is a dumb fucking piece of shit who needs to keep his snout out of WWE's creative business. They got enough problems in that Triple H's creative circle. They've got enough issues there without you and your spray tan making it worse. So fuck off and let the wrestling people do the wrestling stuff, because there is nothing that you are ever going to suggest that is going to increase fan interest, ticket sales, ratings, anything. Nothing coming out of the mouth of Ari Emanuel fucking L is going to convince us to do anything. So he needs to stay the hell out of it, but that's not going to happen. And I feel like Triple H and his team and the guys in charge there, if TKO doesn't see the results and the type of numbers they want to see, then that's when changes are made. It's like when a team has a losing record, who's the first to go? The coach. Coach goes first. And you got to wonder, at what point are people like Ari going to think to themselves, man, maybe if somebody else was in charge, things would be better. And they replace Triple H with someone worse than Triple H. And I really think that could be something in WWE's future if they are not careful. And I'm no Triple H fan. I think a lot of fans are coming to realize that he's not the saving grace. He's not the genius that many fans were hoping he would be when he first took over for Vince. But even with that being said, I think Triple H is still a better choice than a lot of other people that could potentially be his replacement. And if Triple H is in the future ever replaced, I feel like it's going to turn WWE into WCW, where you're going to have a revolving door of bookers and people with the pen and heads of creative, and that's never going to result in anything positive, for your TVs. So I'm hoping they can actually stick it out with Triple H. I'm hoping Triple H and his, crew use this as motivation. Hey, we got to make sure we're firing on all cylinders, because if we're not, they come in here with a bunch of stupid fucking decisions. So maybe, just maybe, this would actually be motivation, for Triple H to say, okay, no more phoning shit in creatively. We got to really think these things through, and before we send somebody out there on TV to do something, let's collectively make sure this is really a good idea. Does Roman Reigns really need to be harping on how old Punk is? Do they need that in this program? As a fan, I say no. But Triple H and the writers seem to think that fans would be into that, when there are so many other things that you could discuss with those two and personal issues you could make between those two, other than you're old. Yeah, I'm old and I'm proud. What the fuck are we doing? So, I put up on Twitter this morning because it got me wondering, just watching, listening, and seeing the fans' reaction to McAfee being the mystery caller reveal, and all the other issues with, the WrestleMania build this year, also the celebrity involvement. Last night we had Lil Yachty on the show. So now it's Lil Yachty and Jelly Roll and IShowSpeed, and who I like. IShowSpeed I don't mind. And who the fucking hell? There's others. I swear, there's 4 or 5 fucking celebrities involved right now, and that's fine. WrestleMania largely has been built around celebrities. I don't mind celebrities that much unless we're getting 4 fucking Jelly Roll segments plus a Jelly Roll match on 1 week of TV. That's where I draw the line. I certainly wouldn't want to see the chunka cookie chunk guy from Costco on 4 fucking Dynamite segments. I'd barf, so I don't mind celebrities, but can we tone it down a little bit, please? Well, I guess Pat McAfee, you can toss him in. So Lil Yachty, I Show Speed, McAfee, Jelly Roll, and I know I'm missing somebody else as well. So many celebrities and all of this shit that's going on during WrestleMania season. And I said today on social media, I said, imagine a world, and I'm not saying we're living in this world right now. I'm saying we could live in this world in the future. Imagine a world where wrestling fans, some of the more casual-ish fans, not me, I have to watch wrestling all year round, but let's say people who watch wrestling but, aren't devoted 100% to it. You could have fans that actually start skipping WrestleMania season because it's just too stupid. It's just too crazy. It's all about the celebrities and the ESPN show and the creative is all over the fucking place. And, it's not fun. It makes it's just silly or annoying or whatever the case may be. The fans just consider it to be a turnoff. And what if we eventually get to a point where you do have a portion of fans who skip Mania season and then come back when things are normal, just to avoid the nonsense? Like, I don't want to watch this year. Last year I had fucking McAfee, and the year before that is fucking Cena turning heel, and it was the dumbest heel turn of all time. You thought The Rock was going to be involved, and then Travis Scott had a 45-minute entrance down in the main event and cost Cody his championship and one of the worst things we've ever seen. Now this year, McAfee is revealed as the big mystery caller when we thought it was going to be The Rock or somebody else cool. And it's McAfee. We got Jelly Roll wrestling 4 times on Smackdown. You know what? I can't do this. Forget it. I'm stepping away from WWE. I'll be back in May. When all this shit's over and the dust settles and WWE's back to doing their regular-ass PLEs or having TVs that, I find more interesting and all the celebrity involvement and all the hype and the craziness surrounding WrestleMania, all of that is subsided and done. Now I can come back to the product and watch a little bit more cohesive pro wrestling storylines and TV, because during WrestleMania time, the TKO execs are involved. You got Ari Emanuel making creative decisions, and everything is just such a mess. It's a turnoff. I don't want anything to do with it. We could essentially one day live in a world like that. Imagine what a TKO achievement that would be. To turn off your fans so badly that they no longer want to watch during WrestleMania season. I know that's an insane thing to say because it should be the opposite. Sometimes we're like, the rest of the year sucks, but I tune in every Mania season because that is fun stuff. That's the way it used to be. That's the way it should be. But it could actually be reversed. WWE could turn off its audience so badly here in a couple of consecutive WrestleMania seasons that they don't want anything to do with it. I'm not going to go to fucking Mania. I'm going to go to SummerSlam, or I'm going to go to something else because Mania is too stupid. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, when you see things like this, last year's WrestleMania and the disappointment that we all felt, I think this year's WrestleMania on paper does look pretty good. I'm confident WWE will deliver a solid WrestleMania, but that's going to be on the talent because there's certainly nothing storyline creatively going on here that is really, really that exciting in any of these storylines at all. So the matches are going to be good. I think it's going to be a fun 2 days of wrestling, but imagine how much better it would be if some of this stuff creatively was hitting on all cylinders or made sense, and that's the disappointing part of this, is that WrestleMania season is starting to feel like a chore. Is it not? It's starting, WrestleMania season is here again. Who knows what kind of bonkers fucking roller coaster ride WWE is going to take us on this year. And I don't mean that in a good way. A lot of times bonkers roller coaster rides are exactly what you want in pro wrestling, but not frustrating ones. Not ones where it just leaves you scratching your head, going to yourself, my God, WrestleMania is 2 fucking weeks away and WWE just gave us one of the worst Smackdowns of all time. That is not what you want in any company. I don't want the go-home Dynamite to All In to be the shittiest fucking show in company history. No, it's not what you want. and WWE doing this, executing a storyline, on a SmackDown that is largely being shit on. I think the Danhausen stuff is the only thing I really enjoyed there. But it's concerning. It really is, and like I said, I'm always glass half full. I'm not sky is falling. I don't think WWE or Triple H is going to be out of a job and WWE is going to, fall to the number 3 promotion in the next year. Nothing like that. And as a matter of fact, I actually do believe, and I am excited, we're going to be here both nights, WrestleMania night 1 and night 2. I believe those cards will be good. They will deliver good shows. I mean, the matches look too good on paper to suck. I think a lot of what we're going to see, at least in the ring, is going to be a very, very solid show. In terms of what they do in the main event matches, the title matches, Punk, Roman, Cody, Orton, if they're going to have any sort of swerve or surprises or turns or anything like that, I hope that they do. But even if they don't, I think the matches can still be good. Cody and Punk and Roman, I think, need something. I don't see them being able to just have a straight up match and a straight up winner, like just straight up match in the ring, like what Triple H and Roman did at WrestleMania 32, how unbelievably basic that match felt. And I don't want to see Punk and Roman have that match and Roman just straight up spears, pins Punk clean in the middle, celebrates with pyro as night 2 fades to black. I think we need a little bit more in that match. But in terms of the rest of the matches, I could probably be perfectly fine with just having matches and winners and losers, and that's it. I think there's enough good-looking matches on the card that WrestleMania will still be good, despite some of this absolutely atrocious creative that we are seeing from this company right now. Because last night was bad. Last night was nothing but bad. All I've seen was bad, bad, bad. I actually did see, I think maybe 1 or 2 people say, well, I kind of enjoyed SmackDown. Boy, I'm glad that you did. Holy shit. I'm glad that some fans out there can watch it and not want to throw the fuck up. That's actually a good thing to me. I don't understand why fans get mad if someone says they like the show. Why did you like it? You're an idiot. No, I'm glad you liked it. I was happy to see that. I'm glad to see it wasn't 100% across the board that everybody was shitting on the show. I'm glad to see that some did find the show entertaining. I don't think anybody liked the Pat McAfee stuff, but some of the rest of the stuff on the show wasn't bad, and we do need to get into that. Oh, by the way, I should mention this too before we get off the Pat McAfee subject. After SmackDown last night, McAfee tweeted a video where he said that if Randy Orton does not win at WrestleMania, then he will never be seen again in wrestling. So I feel like all of this is just to try also to help Cody Rhodes receive some cheers. But again, they were in St. Louis last night, so McAfee being a part of this in a different city, we'll see how the crowd reacts. And I think the belief in WWE is that Cody, will hopefully start getting some cheers now that McAfee is involved. And now McAfee has said, hey, if Randy loses, I'll never be seen again. I guess they're hoping that McAfee will be so disliked as a heel that the crowd will be actively cheering for Cody and hoping Randy will lose, and I am not confident it's going to go the way they want there. Because I think the fans, a lot of them, see through that shit. They know why Pat McAfee is there, and they're not going to let WWE trick them into booing a guy that they don't want to boo. And Randy Orton is the heel in this, and he is receiving all of the cheers, and even last night with McAfee, granted they were in St. Louis, more cheers. So I don't think the McAfee thing is going to work the way WWE thinks it is. We will see. Anyway, also last night on SmackDown, we had a one-on-one match between Rhea Ripley and Mi Chin. Ripley beat her, tapped her out with that, inverted cloverleaf sharpshooter thing. Mi Chin taps out. Post-match beatdown. After the match, as B-Fab and Jade Cargill, who were both at ringside, jump in. They start putting the boots to poor Rhea, and then she is saved by Io Sky. And the announcers are kind of, making note of how, Rhea now has backup. There's a little backstage, segment between the two of them where they're hugging and they're back together, and Rhea is so happy that she's got some backup now. And please, 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 please tell me that Io Sky is not going to just be in Rhea Ripley's corner. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but there is a really good chance, based on what we saw last night on SmackDown, that Io Sky and Carmelo Hayes are going to miss WrestleMania. What did I say last week? There's no way WWE is going to have Carmelo miss WrestleMania, because if they did, that would just mean being shitty for no reason. No reason at all. Let's just be shitty. And I'm like, they're not going to do that. They got enough heat on them right now. Fans are already annoyed with WWE and every stupid fucking thing they do on a daily basis there. They're not going to be that dumb. Well, based on the main event, they might be. And then Ripley, having Io come out and save her, are they really telling us that Io is just going to be in the corner of Rhea Ripley now? She's not going to face Asuka at Mania one-on-one or do a triple threat with Asuka and Kairi? I thought for sure that's what we were going to do. You know, Io Sky, of course, almost died on Raw this past week as well with that very scary dive on the outside, but she's fine. Seems like she's healthy. There should be no reason for her to miss WrestleMania. Having the best women's wrestler in the world miss the show, or at least not have a match. She's going to be out there backing up Ripley, but she's not going to have a match. You're not going to have her on the previous night facing Asuka or something. Have Asuka and Io Sky open up night one. Make that your Brett and Owen at WrestleMania 10. Just do that. Night one, Asuka, Io Sky. Give them 20 minutes. That's how you make wrestling fans happy. But no, you're going to keep Io Sky completely off the card. And I'm not saying they're going to. We don't know yet. We got a couple more Raws. We'll see this week on Raw. Hopefully, Io and Asuka will set something up. They have to, you would think. If not, it looks like Io Sky is only going to be in the corner of Rhea Ripley. I mean, maybe they could do something extra. You know, maybe Ripley beats Jade for the title, and she does so by, you know, receiving a little bit of help from Io Sky. Maybe B-Fab and What's-Her-Tits are out there getting involved, and then Io, you know, fends them off and helps Ripley win the title from Jade. And then as a token of Ripley's appreciation, maybe she offers Io Sky a title shot right there on the spot as friends, and they wrestle and Io beats her for the title there. I don't know. That seems ridiculous, right? But, you know, unless they did something extra, I mean, Io Sky, it's starting to look like she's not going to have a match at WrestleMania. It's starting to look like I'm not going to make it to the NBA either. I'm starting to give up hope on that. But man, if that turns out to be the case, I'm going to be disappointed. Also last night on SmackDown, hopefully the lantern shit is over after all this time. You talk about an anticlimactic end, but I don't care. I don't care how this thing ended, provided it ended. We've got Tama Tonga. He's going up against Uncle Howdy. He's backstage still arguing with Solo about the lantern. Bro, just give it back to him. He even says that he wants to go out there in his match with Howdy on his own. He doesn't want any MFTs coming out there helping him. And, of course, what happens? Solo comes out there anyway. He comes out there with the lantern, and he shows up just enough to distract his own man, Tama Tonga, who winds up getting hit with the Sister Abigail and beaten for the win. And then after the match, Tama and Solo are arguing in the ring, and Tama is yelling at Solo to give the lantern back, and he actually takes the lantern away from Solo and then just sets it down on by the side of the ring. Uncle Howdy, who's now left the ring, comes back and just grabs it. He just grabs it, and I'm like, okay, who's going to come from behind? Tala Tonga or one motherfuckers are going to come from behind him and knock him out and take the lantern back. But no, he actually leaves with the lantern thanks to Tama Tonga, who I guess had a change of heart after he released or posted that rehearsal video on his Instagram and got fined. I feel like he wants to be a better person, and he wants to give Uncle Howdy their precious fucking lantern back, for God's sakes. And he's right. He's like, it doesn't make any sense for us to have this thing. It's taking away from our goals, and it's distracting us from our mission, and it's too much of a problem. It's too much of a pain in the ass. And if we just give it back to them, the Wyatts will be out of our lives, and we could maybe focus on MFT business or becoming tag team champions again. So Tama is actually right in this, and this has been going on. When did the lantern when did the lantern story start? I'm pretty sure it started right after Obama got elected to a second term, so we're talking 2012. So we're going on 14 years of this lantern story on SmackDown between the MFTs and the Wyatt Six, and finally, it's over. It's over. At least we think it is, unless Solo steals it back next week, or if he steals it at WrestleMania. It doesn't look like Solo and crew or the Wyatts are going to be a part of WrestleMania in any way. I would assume that every member of both factions will probably be in the Andre Battle Royal on the SmackDown prior, is my guess. But I certainly don't need any sort of a WrestleMania blow-off between these two factions. I do not need that. And I have a feeling if I had to make a bold prediction for the next 365 days, 1 year from now, by the time we get to WrestleMania 43, if it actually is in Saudi Arabia, I am not convinced the Wyatt Six will even be a faction anymore. I just something I feel. Just feel like it's in the air or something. I don't know. We'll see where things stand a year from now. Up next on SmackDown, we had Tricky William. He's coming out there with his friend Lil Yachty, who I guess has been negotiating and signed a deal with WWE to be a part of WrestleMania and this story with Trick. Now, Sami Zayn, who won the U.S. title last week, was all amped and excited to come out with his new entrance and his pyro and whatnot, but Trick beats him to the punch, even steals his pyro. And then Sammy winds up coming out. Even Lil Yachty gets on the gingerbread man train there and calls Sammy the gingerbread man. And that's when Carmelo comes out. And this made me very happy because, like I said last week, when we talked about Sammy winning, I'm like, okay, I'm not too concerned. I really don't think WWE would be that shitty and just decide to take the title off of Carmelo right before WrestleMania and then not give him a WrestleMania match. Based on how he lost the title last week, I assumed that somewhere on SmackDown this week they would do something to work him into the Mania match and make it a triple threat. I had pitched Melo versus Trick one-on-one. And then if Melo wins, he's in. Sammy can be a part of that finish. Melo can win. Doesn't have to beat Trick clean or anything. He wins. He gets in. Added to the match, it's now a triple threat. And then Trick Williams wins the belt at WrestleMania. That's the way I thought it should go. So seeing Melo come out here, I'm like, okay, good. Melo's still in the mix, just like I said he would be. But then he wants a rematch from Sami Zayn. And Sami initially doesn't want to do it. Well, hey, sorry, man. I'm sorry I took advantage, of a situation. I'm sorry you wound up on the short end of that. But, if you want a title shot, you're just going to have to wait until after WrestleMania is over because I'm going to WrestleMania. I'm champion now. Trick gives him a little bit of shit. Sammy winds up changing his mind and agrees to have a rematch with Melo later on in the night, and that would be in the main event. And then for good measure, Sammy takes out Trick Williams, clotheslining over him over the top rope. So we've got Sammy and Melo now for the title in the main event later on. We had Aleister Black beating Matt Cardona. Nothing to say there. Black Mass for the win. Whatevs. More tag team action with the women. This time we actually got a winner. This was Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. They defeated Lyra, Valkyria, and Bayley. Double natural selection on the both of them. Bliss pinning Lyra for the win there. And then after the match, Lash, Legend, and Nia Jax attack both teams. Now, of course, we have the four-way match for the tag titles announced officially for Mania. It's the three of these teams along with the Bellas. But Nikki Bella got injured last week on SmackDown, and apparently she is in rehab, and the hope is that she will be cleared for WrestleMania. So there's yet another match that could possibly be in jeopardy due to an injury, but hopefully Nikki will be good to go. Because I think that the plan was probably for them to win the titles. I think the Bellas, they're going to give the Bellas the titles at WrestleMania, and it's going to be stupid. So, but again, I don't want Nikki to be hurt. I'd rather her be okay. So if we got to watch the Bellas win the titles at Mania, I guess that's better than having one of them be injured. So best of luck to Nikki as she gets back. My favorite part of SmackDown last night was the tag team title match between Damian Priest and R-Truth. They're defending against The Miz and Kit Wilson. During the match, Danhausen shows up. Now, he already showed up backstage with them when they set this match up. Danhausen is out there, and when his music hit, he got a huge pop. Danhausen, I even put this on social media, and again, all of my tweets are only 44.8% serious. And I said, I think that everything sucks in WWE except for Danhausen might become a more and more common IWC take, because he is so much fun. He's just the wonderfulest guy. I just really like Danhausen. So he shows up, and he wants to be in the tag match. Kit Wilson got taken out somehow. Miz is in the ring getting pummeled. Danhausen's on the apron now. He wants Miz to tag him. Miz is like, you're not even in the match. I'm not tagging you. But R-Truth has got no problem tagging him. R-Truth tags Danhausen. So Danhausen now gets tagged by a member of the other team. So he's now in. Miz is pissed. He goes to put a curse on the Miz, but the Miz pulls the referee in front of him, and the referee gets cursed instead. So Miz then grabs Danhausen, goes for a skull-crushing finale on Danhausen. The lights go out. They come back on. Danhausen has escaped, and he gets all the way back to the aisleway without the Miz ever being able to put his move on him. And then we get a skull-crushing finale to R-Truth, and the referee goes in for 1, 2, ow, ow. Danhausen cursed the referee, and his arm wouldn't come down and count the 3, which was hilarious. That allowed Priest to recover, hit the South of Heaven chokeslam to Miz, and the referee, left-handed this time, makes the 3 count, and that, my friends, is what pro wrestling is all about. I mean, we got 3 hours of Smackdown every week, 3 hours of fucking nonsense. Wrestling needs a little bit of fun. Wrestling needs a Danhausen. And I got to say, I'm going to praise WWE very heavily here. I think WWE is using Danhausen so far, as well as AEW used Sting. Obviously, they're not the same thing. I'm not stupid. I'm just saying in terms of how you can properly use somebody, the way Danhausen debuted at the Chamber with that very, very negative reaction. I said that night during the review, I'm like, the people weren't booing Danhausen himself. They weren't pissed off to see him. They were pissed off that he was the person in that crate. And that's what I had said. One of the reasons why I thought it was Jericho is that I didn't think Danhausen was a big enough personality to come out of a crate on a pay-per-view that only has 4 matches and is the lead into WrestleMania. It's got to be somebody bigger than that. So the fans booing, they were booing the creative decision to have Danhausen come out of the crate. They weren't booing Danhausen. You know, if WWE would have just debuted him in a backstage segment, I think the roof would have blown off the United Center. If they wouldn't have advertised him at all, and they just had Punk, wander around backstage somewhere, and there's a big crate, and Punk's like, what is this? Anybody got a crowbar on you? And then he gets it, and he cracks it open. Danhausen comes out. Hello, it's Pepsi Phil. I think the fans would have gone nuts. You could have just put it on the Tron, and they would have gone nuts. But instead, you hype up the crate for 3 weeks. You bring it out there on the stage. You have Danhausen come out and dance around. And I think the fans were just like, oh, I thought if you were going to go through all the trouble of doing a box and a month-long hype job, somebody bigger would be coming out of there. So that was a very, very bad way to debut Danhausen, but my God, have they really bounced back? It's like they instantly got it. They're like, oh, okay, we get it now. Here's what we should have done. And with Danhausen, you don't need to do like a countdown or, a big debut reveal. Just have him show up. He debuted in AEW. What'd they do? They just pulled him out from under the ring. Danhausen's here. Do the same thing. And like I said, having Punk walking around backstage and stumbling across a big crate and opening it to find Danhausen is all you needed to do there. Because it's Punk, and they're in Chicago. And Punk and Danhausen are bros, and you have that be Danhausen's introduction. He's on, on Raw a lot too, right? Have that be his introduction into the company, I thought would have gone way better. And I was worried that Danhausen was going to now be fighting uphill, but almost instantly, fans really started to like. Now, Danhausen's still not everybody's cup of tea. I know how fans can be. Wrestling fans have this really deep desire to make this crazy form of entertainment that we love feel legit, and feel like a real sport, and stuff like that. So some people don't like Danhausen. They don't like the comedy, but my God, fucking 30 years ago, the Undertaker's, presumed dead brother came back to reveal that the Undertaker was the one that really killed his parents, and then Paul Bearer banged his mom, and Undertaker is risen from the dead. I don't know, 4 times at least. How many times he's been buried alive and resurrected? We're about to have a big resurrection tomorrow, right? So for Easter, he is risen. How many times is Undertaker risen, from the dead? And in the fucking spells and Kane setting referees on fire with lightning bolts and shit. I just don't understand why fans pretend that weird, wacky, goofy shit is some new thing in pro wrestling. It's been going on forever. So nothing that Danhausen does in the ring or does in wrestling on television is ever going to offend me in any way, shape, or form, because I've been watching this shit since 1981. So I don't care. I like it. It's fun. When you got 3 mind-numbing hours there is of Smackdown every week, there is plenty of room to give us 8 minutes of Danhausen. Not a big deal. 5 minutes of Danhausen. 8 minutes might be a lot. 5 minutes of Danhausen, maybe max. It's what we need. Danhausen right now is a character on TV that will just make you smile. Now, one problem WWE has had, a big problem they've had in the past, is once they start finding something that maybe works, that they find a catchphrase or anything that just kind of gets over, even in the slightest way, they beat it into the ground. As soon as somebody gets some funny saying off, they got to say it in every fucking promo now, and they just beat the fun out of it. Beat it to fucking death. And I do worry that the more positively the fans react to Danhausen, the more they're going to feature him, and then it's going to get to the point where, like, okay, that's too much Danhausen. It's all about small doses. The reason Danhausen's fun is because he's not in our face for an hour every week. And when he's on our TV for just a few seconds every week, we laugh, we smile. Our truth, gives us that same type of feeling a lot. And so WWE's got to be careful not to ruin Danhausen, because he worked hard to get this gimmick over. And to get this, whatever it is, this gimmick of his, to get it over, to have people like it, enjoy it, connect with it, and for WWE then to just crush it, under the weight of their own stupidity, is not something I want to see. When Danhausen debuted, one of my fears was that WWE, when he came out of the box, I said they're not gonna get him the same way they didn't get Broken Matt. When they got Broken Matt in and then he was Woken Matt, none of the shit he was doing in WWE as that character even closely resembled to the wackiness of that TNA shit that he was doing. That was fun. WWE's version was, and I was worried that it was going to be the same thing with Danhausen. So Danhausen's involvement on the show last night, getting ever so closer to actually being in the ring and taking a bump. I'm curious when he's actually going to have a match or face someone. He did something in AEW that I really liked. It might have been Shawn Spears. Who was it that he faced that just kicked his ass? Like, they actually put him in the ring in a match and he just got squashed in like 10 seconds. It might be something like that. He's going to be out there, and then one week, what if Brock Lesnar, with Danhausen's in the ring doing something, and Brock comes out and Danhausen tries to curse Brock, and then Brock just grabs the curse and eats it, and then Danhausen's like, oh shit. And he can't even like disappear. He just can't get away. And then Brock just kills him. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Danhausen murdered, but you can do a lot of good things with Danhausen as long as you don't overdo it and don't get too far ahead of yourself if you see something working. If it starts to work, don't think that you have to quadruple the amount of time that Danhausen spends on TV. It's really important, I think, to keep Danhausen and his receptions that he gets from the audience positive and as loud as possible. And if you start cramming him up our ass, you're going to screw it up. So WWE, please don't screw this up. We like Danhausen, and we don't want you to fuck this guy's career 6 ways to Sunday. Please do right by him. And I want to see Danhausen, be somebody that puts a smile on our face for the next decade. Like, I'm serious. Truth did. Why can't Danhausen? Hell, Truth did it for longer, didn't he? After that, it is Cody Rhodes. He's back to respond to the beatdown that he suffered at the hands of Randy Orton. And Pat McAfee, who is Randy Orton's mystery caller, if you're just tuning into the podcast, we talked all about that in the opening here. So now Cody is back, and he's fired up. Attacks, because this happened right after the tag match, right after Danhausen and Miz and Kit Wilson and all that. So Cody comes in the ring, attacks Kit Wilson, gets rid of him, grabs the microphone, and he's fired up. And he said, Pat McAfee, really? Pat McAfee? Randy Orton revealing Pat McAfee as his mystery caller would be like if Hall and Nash, after hyping up Hulk Hogan, revealed Disco Inferno as their third man. So Disco cannot escape Cody Rhodes. Cody, of course, buried him in a tweet, I don't know how many years ago, in one of the funniest just online murders one would ever see. And Disco is a raging douchebag on top of that, so it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. But Disco was probably just minding his own business last night, and then Cody just randomly shits on him. And we're talking about, it's 2026. We're talking about a 30-year reference now. There's fans that, that were born 10 to 15 years after the NWO debuted. So throwing out a name like Disco Inferno, not everybody's going to know who the fuck that is. But I don't care about those fans. I care about fans like me, my age, your age. We know who Disco Inferno is. And I thought that was a pretty funny line, but I also think it's funny that Cody went out of his way to shit on Disco Inferno. So I'm sure Disco's next 285 tweets will be about that. So that was kind of funny. But they kind of revealed what we learned a little bit here and last night after the fact about McAfee and his involvement and why he's involved. And Cody says that that Pat and everyone who represents him can kiss his ass. Yeah, I know, who I'm talking about. What are you going to do, fire me? So Cody basically kind of acknowledges the report that we heard almost immediately following Smackdown, that Pat McAfee's involvement came from above. It came from Ari Emanuel, who represents Pat McAfee. So Cody apparently was told he didn't really have a lot of his promo scripted, apparently. They didn't know what he was going to go out there and say. They gave him the freedom to go out there and just shoot from the hip and say whatever. So Cody mentioning that, I'm not sure how well the Disco Inferno line landed, but, him mentioning McAfee and everyone who represents him, maybe Ari is slightly smarter than we thought, and he does understand that heel authority figures, are largely not liked in wrestling. So if Ari's trying to help Cody Rhodes receive more of the cheers, hey, let's put McAfee there, doing the bidding of me or other TKO execs, maybe even The Rock, who might be above Triple H, and have Cody go out there and kind of, subtly reference that, can help him get cheered, I guess. But if I just maintain that if, an issue between Randy and Cody was done properly and they didn't just decide, in February to go with Randy and Cody at WrestleMania, and they might have known this way back in June and say, okay, let's start slowly telling this story to put these guys together at Mania, because there is a 20-year history between them, then you shouldn't need any of this outside shit. You shouldn't need McAfee or anything else, to get the proper guy cheered and the proper guy booed. If you know how to book wrestling, that'll happen naturally. So it's bad. Did I mention that earlier? I don't know if I mentioned that. Did I mention it was bad? I think I used the word bad because it was bad. Last night's SmackDown was bad. People are pissed about last night's SmackDown, guys. It was bad. Oh, and then it gets better. So then we have the main event, right? It's Sami Zayn defending his U.S. title against Carmelo Hayes, and he just beats him. Now, there's a slight glimmer of hope here. Carmelo, it was a good match, too, by the way. Carmelo was being checked on by the referee in the corner, and Sammy just came flying in with a haluva kick and took out Melo and pinned him. So, it was kind of clean, but maybe there's a little bit at the end. But based on how that match went, I'm like, fuck, is Melo going to be in the same boat as Io Sky? Is WWE really doing this? I mean, on the same night that we get one of the dumbest creative decisions in company history, they're now going to essentially tell us, and for your cherry on top, we're just going to go ahead and leave Melo and Io Sky off WrestleMania because we know you fans will really appreciate that. Their ring work isn't really that good. I'm hoping I'm wrong about that. I'm hoping that I'm jumping the gun. We still got a couple of Raws and a couple of Smackdowns before WrestleMania. Io Sky, maybe as early as this Monday, can find herself into a match. We thought it was going to be Io and Asuka or Io, Asuka, and Kairi. But if that's not going to happen now, and now Melo is left out in the cold too, like what the fuck? So I'm hoping that based on how Sammy kind of took advantage of Melo last night, kicking him when the ref was checking on him, that we get some other match next week on SmackDown and Melo can still find his way in. I'm not going to yell and scream and criticize WWE for leaving Melo and Io off of WrestleMania until we know that they are off WrestleMania. But the way it looks right now, they're going to be. They're going to be. Like I said, we will be here Monday night after Raw. I have no clue what is advertised for Raw. That's why I don't have an image to give you guys. This past week in MSG, of course, we had 4 new matches made essentially for WrestleMania, including Gunther and Seth Rollins. And we had new tag team champs on Raw. And we're probably going to get a WrestleMania match involving LA Knight and the Usos versus IShowSpeed and The Vision is what it's looking like. And LA Knight, because IShowSpeed played a role in the champs losing the titles, and then LA Knight appeared on IShowSpeed's stream, what was it, yesterday or maybe the day before, and then threw him right into his setup, which was kind of funny. And, I got to say, IShowSpeed, when it comes to all these celebrities, he's, for me anyway, he's the easiest one to tolerate. I think I just got a lot of respect for him after he almost died from that spear from Braun Breaker. Was that at the Rumble like a year ago? When was that? And I mean, I swear there's like an imprint, an IShowSpeed shaped imprint in that mat, the way Breaker just buried him into the mat like that. I kind of respected the kid after that. And, he's a little bit easier to tolerate for me than Jelly Roll because he's not on every goddamn segment, and he's, seems like a likable enough guy, even though I don't even know when he streams. What does he stream? What does he do? Does he play video games? I don't even know. But he's easy for me to tolerate. He doesn't bother me. He seems like he can be fun. And as long as he's not, occupying 30 minutes of TV time a week, I'm fine with Speed being around. No big deal. I think the kid's pretty cool. And he did the thing pretty well when LA Knight threw him in. He sold it. And, he's a kid that I don't mind. I don't mind that kid. Don't know anything about him, but I don't mind him. And so far, in all of the celebrities that we got involved, Pat, Jelly Roll, the fucker with Trick, IShowSpeed so far is the one that I have the least issue with. So here's what we got so far for the WrestleMania card. As a reminder, also, we learned this week, John Cena will be hosting WrestleMania. And here's a report that we got from WrestleVotes Radio on Fightful Select, and I quote, we learned that Cena hosting WrestleMania was not in the plans as of Cena's retirement match in December. It was stated that Cena learned of plans in February and agreed to it. Cena had agreed to a new long-term deal with WWE that didn't include in-ring wrestling. WWE made the move to increase ticket sales for WrestleMania 42. So this is, like I said earlier, this is the thing we have to watch out for now every single year. If WWE isn't doing the numbers they want to do internally, they start making crazy decisions. And now they've asked Cena to come in and host. Fans are still trying to process his retirement. He won the title in the main event last year, and now he's hosting this year. We haven't even had time to breathe after his career. And Cena himself kind of implied that next time he comes out for anything, he's not going to be in the jorts. and the shirt and the wristband. He took off the wristband and all that stuff. So if he is going to be at WrestleMania, what is he going to wear? Is he going to come out looking completely different? He's going to wear like long pants and maybe a WrestleMania shirt or a John Cena shirt, or maybe he'll come out and looking like Cody. Maybe he'll come out in a suit and stand in the ring or whatever. But if he comes out with his Fruity Pebble outfit and his hat and he does the thing and he runs to the ring in that weird John Cena run that he does, it's going to be like he feels like he's back. He feels like he's back. And then he gets in the ring and he does the thing and he throws the towel out and he does like it feels like he's out here for a match. So I feel like Cena's got to look very different. Whatever he does at WrestleMania, if he is just going to be the face, like the host, he comes out, hey, welcome to WrestleMania, announces the attendance and that's it. But if there's going to be some sort of, I think it would be fun to have some sort of an in-ring segment with him and some legends, a legend or legends, like maybe something with him and The Rock. Maybe something with him and Austin. Maybe something with him and The Rock and Austin. Remember at WrestleMania 30, Hogan, Rock, Austin? Maybe do Cena, Rock, Austin at this one. They're all retired. They can have a little beer bash in the middle, and it could be fun, something fun for John to do. I don't know. But otherwise, I'm curious like how he's going to look and what he's going to do. In terms of the matches, and pardon this, I know this poker image looks weird over here. Many, many weeks ago, WWE was like, hey, we're going to make this year WrestleMania real classy and fancy. And now if you look at the WrestleMania poster, the fucking city's burning down behind them. So they don't know what their theme is at all for this year, but this is when they want to be all like a fancy schmancy, right? But you can't be fancy schmancy when there's only 38,000 tickets sold for night one. Here's what we got for WrestleMania. I got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 matches that I have written down here, and I know we're going to at least get one more. The word is the plan is to have 14 matches across both nights, so 7 on each night. I would like it to be 8. I would really like 8 on each night, 16 total, but so far we've got 12. Here's what we got. Punk defending his World Heavyweight title against Roman Reigns. Cody Rhodes defending the WWE title against Randy Orton. Brock Lesnar versus Obafemi. Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre in an unsanctioned match. Gunther versus Seth Rollins. Trick Williams versus Sami Zayn for the U.S. title. Still holding out hope that Melo gets involved here. Otherwise, what in the actual fuck, WWE? Jade Cargill defending her women's title against Rhea Ripley. Stephanie defending her women's world championship against Liv Morgan. Becky Lynch defending the Intercontinental Championship against AJ Lee. Dominic Mysterio versus Finn Balor. The 4-way women's tag titles, Lash and Nia, Charlotte and Alexa, the Bellas and Lyra and Bayley, and the Intercontinental title ladder match, which WWE kind of did a backwards way of like spoiling. It's going to be Penta, Javon Evans. Now I forgot. Miro. I don't have it written down. But they already have the participants announced, but then they announced qualifiers on Main Event after the fact, and Main Event airs on YouTube. I don't even know what day, but they kind of announced the participants before the qualifiers aired, I think. So they spoiled their own shit, whatever. If there's anything, I don't know. I'm not sure if there's anything more WWE than that. So those are the matches that we have. That's 12 of them. Also, like I said, next Saturday, 1 week from today, Penta will be defending the Intercontinental title in AAA against Vikingo, and I'm really hoping that there's some sort of a weird finish there that puts Vikingo in the ladder match. So I want to see Vikingo in this IC ladder match at WrestleMania. Currently, there's 5 guys in it. I would like Vikingo to be the 6th. So I'm hoping next week in AAA, Penta retains, but maybe something happens in that match that allows Vikingo to get a spot in the ladder match. That's what I'm hoping happens there. So that's your 12 matches advertised. Like I said a minute ago, sounds like the plan is to do something with LA Knight and I Show Speed at WrestleMania, and I'm guessing that it's going to involve the Vision and the Usos. So maybe a 6-man is what we got. A couple years ago at 39 when I was there, they did something with Trish, right? And it was like Trish and I don't even remember. All I remember it was Trish, but I think it was a 6-woman, right? I think Lita was out there or something with Trish and how do I not remember this? Trish and Becky maybe against somebody. Anyway, sounds like it's going to be something like that. And that's fine, I guess. I'm not sure if that would have been any of those guys' original plan had WrestleMania not had some of the injury problems it had. But if we're going to get Usos and LA Knight versus IShowSpeed and The Vision, that would be your 13th match. Which means if there's only going to be one more, what would the 14th one be? Would it be Io Sky and Asuka? I hope so. What other issue on television right now might be getting a match? I don't think it's going to be MFTs and what's their fucks, Wyatt's. Doesn't look like it's going to be anything with the women's U.S. title either. I was hoping for Tiffany and Julia. Like, is Tiffany going to miss Mania? Like, think about that. Think about the implications of that. Tiffany, who came out of a goddamn Barbie box last year, she misses Mania now? For real? What's she going to do? I feel like they got to tie something in. Like, I feel like there's room for 8 matches on each night. And for the love of all that is holy, put the goddamn Andre Battle Royal on night 1. You know, like, why is that not a thing? Why can the Andre Battle Royal not be on WrestleMania when you have 2 nights? You can involve so many other people. You know, now you get 20 more people involved on the show, which is a good thing. Oh, my God. So anyway, I don't know what else they could add. Michael Games, you need to get up to date with pop culture there like me. You know, I know everything about pop culture. You know, I'm very keen on the sayings and the phrases that kids use today. You need to get Cowabunga on this with me. Start learning your pop cultures. Anyway, also should be noted, in 30 minutes, I apologize, Stand and Deliver begins to air on YouTube, I believe, right? Here's what we got for Stand and Deliver that goes live very soon. We got the Vanity Project versus Los Americanos. We've got Miles Bourne defending his North American title against Johnny Gargano. JC Jane defending the women's title against Kendall Gray and Lola Vice. Sol Ruca versus Zarya. Tatum Paxley defending the North American title against Blake Monroe. And Joe Hendry defending his NXT championship against Ricky Saints, Ethan Page, and Tony D'Angelo. And I got to wonder, is Hendry going to drop the title and be at WrestleMania? Or is he going to retain the title and be at WrestleMania? I feel like Hendry might be at WrestleMania. I feel like Hendry, Saints, and Page could all be at WrestleMania. And I don't even watch NXT, but do you think, am I wrong for thinking that Tony D might actually have a chance to win that title here tonight? And maybe all 3 of those other guys get called up? Just a thought. Just a thought. Anyway, let's move on here. We've got wrestling news to get into as well. And again, I apologize. This podcast is going to be overlapping a little bit with Stand and Deliver, but that's why YouTube is YouTube. You can just come back later. If you got to leave me to watch Stand and Deliver, come back and finish the podcast later. No hard feelings. Let's talk about wrestling news. Guys, holy crap. We haven't even gotten into that yet. So, one of the big stories this week was the return of Chris Jericho to AEW. So, it started becoming, I wouldn't say clear, but rumors started circulating that Jericho, after we were all expecting him to show up in WWE, might actually stick around and go back to AEW. He filed for a trademark over the past couple of weeks. He filed for the trademark Cornerstone, which is yet another nickname. And when you're thinking about which company that Cornerstone nickname would work the best in, it's more of an AEW thing than WWE. I don't think he could trademark himself Cornerstone and come to the WWE at age 72 or whatever the fuck he is. But Cornerstone kind of fits right in with the other 76 nicknames that he's had in the last 6 years. And prior to Dynamite on Wednesday in Winnipeg, it kind of did get leaked that he was expected to be on the show, and he was. Jericho opened up Dynamite in Winnipeg. Judas played. He came out. Got a pretty nice reaction from the hometown crowd. It'll be interesting to see how these reactions go going forward. Walks around, kind of milks it. Doesn't say anything other than he's home. He said, I don't even know what he said. He just said something like, I'm home. I'm home, but he said, I'm back, or whatever the fuck he said. I don't even know what he said. It was 3 words and I don't remember, but it was something about him being home. So word is Jericho has re-signed with AEW for a long-term deal. This came from Fightful Select, and I quote, "We had been told that WWE only wanted to bring him in for a retirement tour and a farewell. At one time, we were told that the 2026 year would be built around retirements of AJ Styles, Brock Lesnar, and presumably Chris Jericho. But even though there were teases by Pierce and another by CM Punk, we had been told repeatedly that you should not believe any of the stories going around involving WWE and Jericho. There are more questions than answers right now, and nobody is talking about the details. The belief is that him going to WWE is now dead, and he's back in AEW for the long term. What he'll be doing and how the crowd will react to what he's been doing will be a lot more clear in 2 weeks when they are out of Canada." And I need to make a correction there. That was not Fightful Select. That was Meltzer. I had that wrong. So that's what Meltzer had to say about that situation. And, you know, you can kind of put 2 and 2 together here. It sounds like Chris Jericho absolutely had talks with WWE, and we talked about it whenever that story was reported on the podcast. We talked about WWE wanting him for a retirement run, and essentially what else would they want him for? I even said that when the rumors first started, way back last year. I said Jericho at some point, has got to think about how he wants to end his career, and he has got a lot. WWE has a lot of Jericho's legacy under their umbrella. All of his WWE matches, his WCW matches, they own so much of him, to go into their WWE Hall of Fame and be able to be recognized and remembered. That's probably how he would want, or I might want if I was in his shoes, to retire or go out, because there's really nothing left for him in AEW. Do we really want to see him go back there and just do the same ass shit with yet another nickname and another faction, and to form this vortex of Jericho where everyone he involves with the intent of getting them over really results in no advancement for their career at all whatsoever? And we just got done with the learning tree crap last time he was there, which was absolutely awful. And, now he's going to be back to doing this when, he could have just gone to WWE and retired, but Jericho must feel like he's got more in his tank, because I believe he had talks with WWE. They laid out what they wanted for him, and he was probably like, nah. There was talk a few weeks back that maybe WWE would cock block him from doing a lot of his other outside stuff. I even mentioned that one bad thing about Jericho going to WWE is that they would probably not let him narrate Dark Side of the Ring. They don't like that show. And I don't think they would like one of their guys doing that. And so maybe Jericho just kind of thought about it. Sure, they're going to bring me in. They'll put me in the Hall of Fame. I'll get a retirement match. I'll have to get my chest caved in by Gunther. That's going to hurt. But maybe that's not what I see for myself. I mean, he's in his late hundreds. He's old. So how many more years has he got in him? But, if he wants to do more stuff and he wants to wrestle for a couple of more years, AEW is probably where that's going to be. So to me, it sounds like that Jericho, even though we've heard, him telling Tony Khan he'll never wrestle for another, American or another promotion again. Maybe that's true. Maybe he will actually have his final match in AEW, but there will still be a time when he goes into the WWE Hall of Fame. So my belief is Jericho probably signed another 3-year deal or something like that with AEW, and this might be his final hurrah. He'll have his final match in an AEW ring, and then he might stick around with AEW in a backstage capacity or some way, or creative role, or working side by side with Tony Khan. But if he doesn't, and he's out of the ring and he's officially retired, then where are we at right now? 2026, 2031, or 2030? He goes into the WWE Hall of Fame. I mean, maybe by that point he's working backstage in AEW, and maybe the relationship between the two companies are a little better. Maybe he's working backstage, in AEW, but WWE calls him up and be like, hey, do you think your boss would let you come be in the Hall of Fame? We'll throw him a bone. You guys can have Danhausen back for a week or something, or I don't know, something fun, little cooperation there. And then Jericho goes into the Hall of Fame and then goes back and, maybe he becomes the Triple H of AEW. I thought that's what he was going to be when he first got there and he became the first champion. I felt like he was going to be their Triple H, like Tony Khan was going to be Vince, he was going to be Triple H. But then that felt like it became more Danielson, but now Danielson doesn't even travel very much. Jericho's not dumb. He's got a good wrestling mind on him, so he can be a good asset, I think, more behind the scenes these days in AEW than he could in the ring. But in terms of Jericho being back in AEW now, not too happy with it, to be honest. I don't really need him. I didn't like the last 4 or 5 things he did there. I'm not really interested in Jericho at all. But I think I would have been more interested if he would have gone back to WWE, because you would have seen the Hall of Fame induction and you would have seen a retirement match. That would have been interesting to me as a fan, more interesting than him, with a new nickname and a new faction. I do hold out a little bit of hope, though, because Jericho has always done things differently. He's usually keyed in to what fans are thinking and what the opinions are. And so if the fans like myself and a lot of others are repeating the same thing, like, we don't want to see another stupid nickname and another stupid faction, I feel like Jericho giving us another stupid nickname and a stupid faction would just be trolling us. And why would he want to do that? I feel like Jericho knows what the opinion is, and he did come out there and didn't say a whole lot. He didn't reveal anything. All he did was act weird, so maybe he's out there and with the intent of making us think that he's going to give us another name and another faction, and we're going to see the same version of the Inner Circle. And what was the other one with the boy band looking thing that they did? And then there was the Jericho Society, or I forgot how many there were now. But anyway, all of his factions, you just think you're going to get that again, only for Jericho to turn the tables on us and reveal that he has something really creative planned. I'm not holding my breath on that. So in terms of Jericho being back in AEW, I don't care. I don't need, and I shouldn't say I don't care. I should say, I'm really not that pleased with it, because there's only 2 hours of Dynamite, man, and TV time is precious. And if you're not going to be doing anything significant and you're just going to be there to be there, then get the fuck off TV. So Jericho, granted, he's only been back to say 3 words. Maybe there's more to this than meets the eye. But if this is just another one of the standard Jericho AEW runs, nicknames, and factions, I personally don't want anything to do with it. So obviously I'll give it a chance, but my reaction, a lot of people were on Wednesday were tweeting me like, what's your reaction? My reaction is like, I was doing just fine without him here, but now apparently not only is he back, he's re-upped a new deal, even though we don't really know the details on the deal. Sounds like he's re-upped for a multi-year thing, and we just might have to be back to putting up with Jericho on AEW TV again, which is not fun. Jericho, if he makes it fun, then great, but he hasn't been making it fun in the last couple of years that he's been there. I thought he was a big asset at first. I went on the Jericho cruise, had a fucking blast. Jericho's one of the nicest wrestlers I've ever met. But in terms of his involvement in 2026 pro wrestling, especially in AEW when he's already been there for 6 years and he's done almost, everything you can do, what is there left for him to do? As a wrestling fan, this is not that intriguing to me. So, of all the things going on in AEW right now, and there's a lot of positives going on, I think they're out booking WWE at the moment. Their numbers, ratings-wise, have not been terrible. They're pulling in the mid-700,000s now on TNT alone, not including the max numbers. So the numbers are good. That's all good. Creative has not been too bad. And the pay-per-views are still delivering fantastic pro wrestling. But they're not without their problems either. And I think having Jericho back doing what he always did isn't going to do anything to help, I think the positive momentum swing they're seeing right now. So Jericho, if he comes back only to kill this momentum, I'm going to be pissed. As a wrestling fan, I think many others would be too. But anyway, we'll give it a chance. That's what they all say, right? Give it a chance. But what can he possibly do that we're going to be like, oh, okay, this I can get behind? Like, throw out a creative scenario that you would enjoy seeing or that you wouldn't find completely fucking boring. Jericho's back. All right. I don't even want to talk about this. Every time there's like more Janelle Grant stuff, I almost like dread it because I feel like it's homework. I'm like, this is a pro wrestling channel. I talk about wrestling. Wrestling is supposed to be fun. Obviously, we can sometimes have, strong opinions about things, but at the end of the day, it's pro wrestling here. There's no reason to yell and scream and, and be stressed out and talk about ugly, nasty, horrific shit, really ever. And every time we get a new update about Janelle Grant and her lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE and Nick Khan and everybody, it's just gross. And this one has to be the worst one yet. So basically, there's a new filing in the Janelle Grant case. It's a new affidavit. She's filing in support of that her argument should stay in court. It's like basically like a memorandum that opposes motions filed by Vince and the WWE in her lawsuit against both parties. And in this new memorandum, it goes into even more horrific detail about her relationship and the specifics of what took place and when and who was involved. And when you go back to that original 60-something page lawsuit, that was gross enough. We've had several updates since then. Janelle Grant has even appeared on camera and did the big appearance for a presser or whatever it was a few weeks back that we also discussed, where she got into very, very grisly detail as well. This one, when I was reading the entire memorandum, I said to myself last night, I can't read any of this. I cannot quote any of this, and I mean, it's so funny. Like, I believe I'm an adult. We're all adults. And I don't really subscribe to being like easily triggered by anything. I sometimes laugh when a YouTube video will have a trigger warning. Warning, this video and the nature of the video could trigger you. And then the controversial subject is so untriggering. I'm like, do people get triggered just by the easiest shit now? But when I read this, I'm like, I can't read this. Like, this is triggering. There could be people in the chat have a goddamn heart attack if I read this shit out loud. It's that bad. So what I have done, I got to make sure I did it. I did it right. I put a link. Yeah, it's down there. I put a link to the Janelle Grant filing in the description where you can read it yourself. Now, I do have a couple of quotes to read you. I found the quotes that I thought would be the least disturbing to read. And there are paragraphs to go through here, like 40-something pages. I found 2 paragraphs that I thought would be okay to read aloud on my live YouTube show. That's how bad it was. Also, I want to shout out BJ Bethel. You can find him at BJ Bethel Tweets over on X, over on Twitter. And he did all the work so you don't have to. He's the one that really combed through these details and gave you a synopsis or an overview of what these details were and sanitize the language up to where it's not so fucking graphic. So go over to at BJ Bethel Tweets and you can read basically a summary of all of this stuff if you don't want to go through this paragraph by paragraph like I did last night. Here I am thinking I'm going to be making notes and grabbing all these juicy parts. Elizabeth is sitting in here as I'm doing this, and I'm like, I can't read any of this stuff tomorrow. I can't read a single word. And luckily, as I kept reading, I did find, like I said, 2 paragraphs that I think I can read. But the rest of this, I'm not going to. This is a wrestling channel. This is supposed to be fun, and reading some of this shit is just, it's downright horrifying. I mean, especially, the outlining of suicide attempts and the damage to her mental health. And, some of it was just really, really tough to read. And then going into the specifics of what the sex with Vince McMahon was like, what he did to her, the things he prepared her for other people that she was going to be trafficked out to. I mean, if you have daughters, man, fucking Lock them in a room. Don't let them out, man. Jesus, this world. Fucking Christ. So anyway, here's a snippet of what Janelle Grant said. Just a tiny piece of what she said about what was transpiring in 2021 between her and Brock Lesnar and Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis and God knows who else. And I quote, on December 17th, 2021, while WWE was in Illinois for the taping of Raw, I got a text at 4:29 p.m. from a number I didn't recognize stating, quote, hi, this is Polish Joe with a kiss emoji. I know we're not supposed to laugh, but Polish Joe... This is Polish Joe. I momentarily froze in confusion before Vince texted me at 4:30 saying that Brock is going to text you in a few minutes. So Brock is Polish Joe. He reminded me of the promise that he had made to Brock that I would do anything and to give Brock whatever he wants. Vince told me he was excited to see the exchanges between Brock and me and hear the stories as I reported them back to him. Those are the cleanest 2 paragraphs I could find. I highlighted them and dumped them in the document here because I said, this is the only thing I can read. This is the only thing I can read. So as I'm talking here, if you want to click that link in a separate window and kind of read through that as I'm just flapping my gums here, feel free. But you will see some of the descriptive things, and it's crazy. I mean, it is crazy. Now, one good thing to come out of this is that ESPN actually ran in Andreas Hale's story on the Janelle Grant charges. And I feel like, they probably had to just for their own credibility's sake, but it wasn't really toned down at all. I mean, it was very honest in terms of what the charges are, what the accusations are. And for, ESPN with the relationship with WWE, it's not like they're trying to sweep this under the rug or anything like that. I mean, they have to acknowledge this. Now, front office sports, that'll be a whole different story to see how they cover that, if they cover it at all. But I'm kind of glad that at least, ESPN had to run that. I feel like there's tensions between WWE and ESPN. It's crazy that they would have a relationship together considering how much controversy and how many lawsuits and how many ugly things are going on behind the scenes in that company with some of the accusations of the people in charge and the culture there for all those years. And to having a relationship with them, you got to report on this stuff. But the newest filing there in the Janelle Grant case, you just read it, you're like, God damn. And again, it's not like, people, of course, you still got the defend Vince crowd out there and whatnot. And I just think you have to be crazy to just think that all of this shit would just be made up. Under oath, and talking about these very, very specific things and bringing the receipts, and granted, Janelle Grant, WWE's got their own receipts of Janelle too, who professed her love to Vince McMahon. And I guess his only defense here is he's maintaining that this is consensual. And she's maintaining that it's not, that it's more, being coerced and people using their power, to manipulate and influence and scare me and force me into doing these things and all of that. So it's, it's pretty gross, man, but it's not that surprising. Vince, we've all known what an absolute fucking freak he is. And I'm curious how Brock's home life is. I'm curious what Sable thinks about all this. What his kids think about all this. Is he just blowing smoke to them too? Being like, no, all this is just bullshit. She's lying. Or is he like, no, Daddy was bad. Please forgive me. And he's been working hard to make it up to his family ever since. We don't know. But that's something that's probably never going to come out. That's going to be Brock is already a very, very private person. And as far as we know, him and Sable are still together. I don't think there was a divorce there. And unless he's just lying to her too and saying, hey, no, she's making all of this up. None of this ever happened, which I think we all know better. And then Sable's like, okay, I don't know. I would like to think that this is probably something Brock can't lie about. And he has a family that is forgiving him is what I'm assuming here. But When you assume, you know the rest of the phrase. Let's see, what other news can we get into? Here's something fun. So Punk posted this on his Instagram. You just see like half of his head here with the word radiate. And he appears to be standing on the roof of Allegiant Stadium. And he's wearing his old Ring of Honor jacket there. And a lot of fans have pointed out that this is a tease for him to use his old Ring of Honor song. Now, he came out to this song in AEW once. Was it Revolution? Was it Revolution 22? It was a match with MJF. And again, I don't know these bands. It's AFI, right? I forget the name of the song. But when he came out in AEW to that, and I missed Ring of Honor. I was living a different life back in the Ring of Honor days when they were in their heyday, and it was before I was doing YouTube, and I was kind of checked out of wrestling. So I was oblivious to the universe that existed in Ring of Honor, to your Kevin Steens, to your Danielsons, to your Punks, even to your Samoa Joes to a degree. And, missed out on all that. Now, as an older fan, going back and seeing some of that stuff has been a lot of fun. We watched the El Generico and Steen match over the holidays, I think we did, right? Which was wild. So I kind of missed out on all that. So I don't even know what that song was or the theme. It doesn't connect with me because I didn't watch Ring of Honor at the time. It's like when people were all calling for like Drew McIntyre to bring back his Broken Dreams theme or whatever it is. I'm like, I don't even know what that theme sounds like. I have no recollection of it, so it doesn't connect with me, but fans really are getting excited that it sounds like Punk might be coming out to that song, or maybe, are those guys still around, or are they a band still, are they still alive? Maybe he gets a live performance. I don't know. But that could be cool. I mean, the Revolution or the AEW, was it Revolution? I can't remember. I feel like it was. But the AEW entrance was badass. So him doing that at WrestleMania, hopefully, enough of the crowd there will recognize the song. I don't even think I did when he used it at Revolution. But anyway, that's kind of fun. And I hope that Punk winds up using that. Also want to mention, too, as we are now 4 minutes away from Stand and Deliver going live, and we haven't even talked about AEW yet, Dominic Mysterio and Stephanie Vaquer both this week were involved in separate incidents where fans were yelling at them. Stephanie Vaquer, I think, was in the parking garage of maybe an airport or maybe the arena or something, or a hotel, and fans were yelling at her because she didn't want to sign. Oh, so-and-so signed. Stephanie doesn't want to sign. She doesn't want to sign for her fans, and just being a dick. And then he got called out hard on social media. Even Stephanie Vaquer herself said, bro, it was my birthday. I'm just trying to go about my life. I always try to sign for my fans. I appreciate my fans. But, these complete and absolute losers that follow these wrestlers around, stalk them at hotels, stalk them at airports, show up outside of anywhere that they're appearing to bother them for a fucking autograph. I don't even do autographs. I don't care about autographs. I only have one. Bret Hart. Right there is the only autograph of a wrestler I have, because I just don't give a shit about autographs. I don't need a wrestler's signature. I don't need somebody writing down their name that's not their name. I'd rather have a picture. I'd rather have a selfie or a picture. That's all. I don't need an autograph. So I don't understand autograph. I mean, unless you're reselling this shit on eBay and it's like your job, then I get it. But otherwise, I just don't get autograph culture. I just don't care. So I wouldn't even want one. But I would maybe want a picture, in which case I would never bother a wrestler in public for that unless you feel like you could. I talked to Adam Pearce at the bar a couple years back because all the wrestlers were there. Everybody was in the bar. It was WrestleMania weekend. People were just having a good time. You can go right up to anybody. And he was more than happy to do it. Pick your spots. Know when to do it, when it's appropriate, when it's not. If somebody's having dinner with their family or hanging out with their child, don't walk up to them. Don't walk up to them ever, really. Just buy a ticket to a convention, wait in line, take your fucking picture. But these people get stalked, and then when they don't sign for someone, then the fan is like, oh, you owe it to us. They don't owe you shit, man. Stalking these people at airports, waiting for them to come off the plane when they're tired and they got one bloodshot eye. They don't know what fucking day it is, and you're sticking a goddamn figure in their face. This is what you do? So Stephanie had to deal with that. Then Dominic is getting out of a car in front of a hotel and, he won't sign something, and they're yelling at him, we're the reason you're here where you are, and just like, I cannot believe fans can be that way. Just the selfish stupidity of fans that feel like these people owe you anything. They don't owe you shit, man, at all. Leave them alone. My God. I mean, it's crazy now too how accessible wrestlers are. Back in my day, we followed WWE around a lot, and we saw wrestlers all the time on the road, driving next to them on the interstate, getting into car accidents with them, which I've talked about before. And the best part is going into Waffle Houses, man. After any show, you just hit up a Waffle House within any sort of 10, 20-mile radius of the arena. Wrestlers will be there, and you can see them, and then maybe you can get a picture or talk to them. And they might be a little bit more friendly or whatnot back in those days because that was your only chance to see them. Now you can get cameos from these people. They will talk to you on social media. You can see what they're doing. Follow them on Instagram and on TikTok and Twitter, and you can follow their lives around. You can know where they are. They do several meet and greets every month, and they're going to be in your area most likely within a year's time, and you can go meet them and take a picture. And, it's amazing to me how it feels how accessible wrestling is compared to when I was way younger, and things like conventions and cruises and, the everything surrounding WrestleMania weekend and all the things you can do to meet your favorites, get a chance to talk to them, get an autograph, get a picture. All of that is so possible for fans, and to resort to being a cheap little bitch by stalking them like a psycho at an airport or hotel or wherever they are, and then bum rushing them when they could be in the middle of God knows what in their personal life. And then when they can't sign it, your butt hurt. Buy a ticket, bitch. What the fuck is your problem? Ain't you got no home training? That's what Jamie Presley says in the Jerry Springer movie. You ain't got no home training. You got no home training. Who's your parents? They didn't teach you that that's stupid? It blows my mind. So anyway, Stephanie Dom, sorry you dealt with that. And we've seen this so many times, like videos at the airport, of people, bum rushing Rey Mysterio or, bothering the women especially. I think TKO is going to have to start getting bodyguards for these guys, especially the women. I loved when, I think it was maybe the MFTs or it was the Bloodline or something, and they all protected Tiffany Stratton. She was walking through the airport and they were just her human shield. Just this brown ball around her and want nobody getting near her. I'm like, that's what you got to do for each other, especially the girls, man. They should always have an escort, if they're not with their boyfriends or husbands or spouses or whatever, get someone with them, a buddy system type of thing. I think it's only a matter of time before, TKO is going to possibly have these guys have security. I don't know if they sometimes do for appearances and whatnot, but just general traveling, get them a little security. Which sucks for them. They might not want that, having a big giant shadow around them, but at some point, one of these fans, if they're getting butthurt about not getting an autograph, when's somebody going to get stabbed, And by then it's too late. So you might need some security because fans are not only stupid, but they're crazy. Hey, here's some good news. According to Kathy Kelly, WWE's not going to do the Slammy Awards this year. I didn't know they did them last year, to be honest. So good for them. No Slammies this year. Also, congrats to Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa has secured a contract from CMLL, so she is now under a dual contract from AEW and CMLL. We love Thunder Rosa. Good for her. Thrilled about that. Okay, guys, I know that NXT Stand and Deliver is starting, so a lot of you are going to jump over and watch that now. I'm not offended. I understand it's my fault for bleeding into that, but I do want to mention a little bit about the rest of Dynamite and run through the Dynasty card as it stands right now. And Dynasty is coming up in just a week, and we only have 5 official matches, so they got to go heavy on the match announcements this week, I think, to bring this up to par to a normal AEW-sized show. Now, like I talked about earlier, Jericho opened up Dynamite, came out, said that he was home. We talked all about the Jericho stuff a minute ago, and what was really opening the show was the contract signing between Kenny Omega and MJF for Dynasty. And, it was fun because I think MJF, he's great. I'm really loving this run of MJF as champion, maybe even more than the last one, because the last one was a little weird with Adam Cole and whatnot, but this one, I just like it. He's great. And, bringing up Omega's missing intestines and whatnot. And MJF, went on to tell Kenny that he's a false idol who will be better off dead. And that's when Kenny almost loses his cool and puts his hands on MJF. But Speedball Mike Bailey runs in to stop him. And this wound up setting a match for later against MJF. I think it was actually kind of an eliminator type of match with MJF and Speedball in the main event. So right after that, Kenny would stick around because there was a 6-man, Omega and Jack Perry and Brody King. They beat Ricochet and Gates of Agony. Pretty cool finish there with a V-trigger and one-winged angel to Ricochet for the win. So Omega on the winning track there to Dynasty, where as cool as I think it would be to see Kenny win that AEW title again, I do not see it happening. I think MJF is going to go on a little bit of a succession here of title defenses against Kenny, and then I think against Darby Allin. And eventually he'll probably lose it to Ospreay is what I think they're doing, but shit, we don't know. But I do think he's going to survive Kenny, although I really enjoyed the time when Kenny Omega was AEW champion. I'd like to see him have that belt again. But it's not going to happen. I think MJF will retain and probably face Darby, I guess, at Double or Nothing, although I'm not totally sure. I liked Cope and Christian. I actually am entertained by this. I love the dynamic that Cope and Christian are back together, but Christian is still Christian. Christian is still a son of a bitch. He didn't just overnight shed being the most evil douche of all time and become a happy-go-lucky good guy. He is still an asshole despite being one half of a babyface tag team. So Cope and Christian are going through the backstage area with a chair, and they're going to go to FTR's locker room, and they're stopped by Renee, and Copeland basically says that anybody that's in their way gets taken out, and Christian goes to bash Renee over the head with a chair, and then Copeland stops him, thankfully. He goes, "God damn, dude, she's not in our way. Fuck." And then they go find FTR's dressing room to find Rocky Romero and Trent there. And Trent's like, no, they got the week off. They're going to be on Collision. If you want them, they'll be on Collision. And then they wind up getting nailed because they were in their way. Really fun match also between Will Ospreay and Pac. Loved this one. Pac goes down here. Ospreay pins him with kind of a roll-up thing after a really, really fun match. But, of course, we've got Ospreay and Moxley at Dynasty. So right after the match, Ospreay is swarmed by all of the Death Riders, and they put his head in the chair, Pillman style, and Moxley gets on the mic. And I kind of like this whole segment here between these guys. I like Mox being like, bro, there's 6 of us. How did you think this was going to go? And it's interesting here, too, with Moxley kind of being a babyface up until this point. Over the past several months, fans have been cheering him, and then Ospreay coming back and not forgetting and going after Mox. He doesn't care if he's a babyface or a heel. You're the one that did this to me. You're the one who has to pay. So I'm kind of liking this. I think Moxley and Ospreay, at least right now, I'm looking forward to the most. But unfortunately, it is going to be for the Continental Championship, which I was kind of hoping it wouldn't be. I'm also wondering if they do some sort of a disqualification here or whatnot, because I don't think there's a stip in here that's no DQ, right? I don't think. Oh, shit, I don't have it written down. But, Ospreay's been saying, I want to break Mox's neck or something, so maybe he becomes so hell-bent on doing that he kind of forgets about the match, winds up getting himself DQ'd, but does, hit a Tiger Driver 91 or something like that on Moxley and takes him out. Maybe they do something like that, but Ospreay winning that title is not something that I need to see, even though we probably will. Mina Shirakawa and the Brawling Birds, they took down the Triangle of Madness. Jamie Hayter pinned Julia Hart. And, of course, Jamie is getting the title shot at Dynasty against Tekla. That's going to be fun. Darby also had a promo on Wednesday night. He wants MJF. He's been calling out MJF a couple of times. He said he wanted him tonight, but then the Callis family came out, and Don Callis said that MJF paid him a lot of money to pick a member of the family to face Darby Allin at Dynasty, and if he wins, he will grant him a title shot. So Don Callis is pointing around to all the members of the Callis family. It looks like it's going to be Archer or someone. And then he goes, Andrade. And he points to Andrade, and Andrade's kind of surprised. But, at the same time, this is an opportunity for a title match if he is to beat Darby Allin. So now we're going to get Darby versus Andrade at Dynasty, and I guess if Andrade wins, MJF will grant him a title match. Now, if Darby wins, I guess Darby is still going to just demand a title match, and eventually MJF's going to have to cave to that, and I guess that's going to be the Double or Nothing main event, if I had to guess, but tell me if I've got that sniffed out incorrectly. I might. Main event was good. MJF defeated Speedball Mike Bailey. I really like Speedball. He's so fun. Tombstone on the apron, followed by a heat sinker here for the win. Kenny was on commentary. Overall, fun Dynamite. Again, nothing overly great. Like I said, the Jericho stuff kind of put a damper on it for me. The rating looked okay. I think they pulled 730 this week, and that's down a bit from the 765, but these are decent numbers. Keeping up in the 700s, especially mid-700s, is not bad, and they really, really weathered that horrible nonsense with CM Punk combined with WWE's little boom there in 2023, and they've come out on the other side of this, and now gotten to the point where I think, even though nothing is perfect in AEW by any means creatively, I think they're outbooking WWE right now in terms of their stories and their issues, even though sometimes they drag their feet where I don't like them to. They table and bench people when I feel like that's the absolute last thing you should do with them. I've been waiting for Takeshita and Okada, and they've been stretching this shit out just to give us this at a stadium show. That's great, but fuck, you're making us wait a long time, and you do that so often, and when you keep doing that, you start forgetting and stop caring about the issue when you make us wait a whole fucking birthday to see these things. So things aren't all great, but I am happy to see AEW having solid programs, solid champions, solid TVs, solid pay-per-views right now, and the ratings are reflecting that, so that's good. Collision ran on Thursday this week. Thursday, Collision ran and overlapped about an hour with TNA, and I have not looked up those ratings. Anybody got them? What numbers did Collision do compared to TNA? I bet you they were pretty close. I mean, Collision's going on an off night here. It wasn't like the greatest looking card. And I could see Collision winning, but not winning by much. I have no idea what they were. Anyway, Moxley beat Anthony Bowen's Divine Dominion, took down some enhancement talents. FTR also took down some enhancements. Willow successfully defended the TBS title against a returning Hikaru Shida. Great to see her back. She almost went to hit Willow with the kendo after the match, but decided not to because she's a nice babyface. Tommaso Ciampa defeated Juice Robinson, and Mark Davis and Andrade defeated the Rascals. Andrade was out there, as you can see here, smooching it up with another hot lady at ringside. I mean, that Andrade, man, he is dreamy. You cannot deny the dreaminess of Andrade. Ramon, don't be thinking you can deny it, because you can't. You can't either, Ben, or you, Garrett, or you, Ryan, especially you, Ryan. Can't deny that. Can't deny it. Also, Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong, Kevin Knight, and Mystico defeated Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, and the War Dogs this past Thursday on Collision. And the Dynasty card, like I said, I've only got 5 matches written down. Am I missing one here? Help me out. But here's what I got. MJF versus Kenny Omega, FTR versus Cope and Cage, Moxley versus Will Ospreay, Tekla versus Jamie Hayter, and Andrade versus Darby Allin. So that is only 5 matches. We got to get at least 4 more. Plus, we have to have a fucking Costco cookie match or something on the 0 hour. And we're going to be here to watch it next week because AEW pay-per-views always deliver, and I've no doubt that one will as well. So right on. That brings me to the end of my notes. Sorry, I kind of put the pressed the gas a little bit there at the end. I just didn't want to keep you guys too far into Stand and Deliver for those who are watching that. But now, at least since I got to the end of my notes, we can just take it easy, see what you guys have to say in the chat, answer super chats, that type of stuff, and any other elaboration that we need to make on what's going on in WWE or AEW. Let us know. Let me go all the way to the top so I can make sure that I don't miss the supers. I got to go into the master list here because I don't want to miss out on any of them. Let me just make sure that's the first one. Where are we at? Okay. It is, okay. Oh, it's not many at all. Phew. Okay, I thought I was way behind. All right, it's Tomas. Good to see you, bro. Tomas Aridia, a while back, chimed in with $5. The Cody Orton feud went from frustrating to intriguing to downright stupid in the span of 3 weeks. Triple H should be proud of himself. Yeah, he should. Now, one thing about Triple H, though, is if these reports are true, there's really nothing he can do about it. I mean, this was a call from above. If this was Ari Emanuel forcing Triple H and his creative team to insert Pat McAfee into this, then there's really not much Triple H could do. Triple H makes some bad creative decisions. I don't feel like this McAfee decision would be one he would make on his own. I can't see Triple H saying, you know what would make this feud really good? Pat McAfee. No. So I think he was kind of forced into doing this, and I think this is more of a frustrating part of TKO going forward, that this is something that's always going to be a threat, especially if you have a big show like a WrestleMania coming up that's under-delivering or underperforming in terms of ticket sales and whatnot, and then you got your big execs coming in thinking they can fix it when all they do is fuck it up worse. And that's what I'm worried is going to happen here with this stuff. We've got Off Leather Wings. Good to see you. Appreciate that 5. Did you hear the rumor that Vince wanted Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Sandman to win the tag team titles in 2007? They could have been called Hacksaw. Vince wanted that? I'm surprised Vince wanted that. But I could see that. Did he just come up with that name? And then, that's great shit. And then just decide that, did he wake up from a dream with that? I mean, Sandman was there in 2007 because of the ECW stuff, and Hacksaw might have been messing around there too a little bit because he did come back in the 2000s at some point, back there wrestling in like the blue shorts and whatnot. I did not hear that. That would have been an interesting tag team. 5 more from Tomas. On a more positive note, sorry I've been absent from the lives the past few months. Got a new job, my first full-time job, and I start on Tuesday. Nice. Congratulations. This is your first full-time job. Wow. So I'm guessing by full-time you mean 40-hour per week. Yeah. Good for you, man. Good luck. I hope it's a tolerable job. I hope it's a well-paying job, and I hope it's one that you like, because that's what's important. I busted my ass a lot in my life, worked 40-hour weeks a lot, and then back when I was on the East Coast, when I had basically my general managing job out there, I was putting in basically like a minimum of 55 hours, and it was just rough. I mean, and I remember 4 days a week I had 10 a.m. to midnight shifts, essentially, where I'd come in and open the place in the morning, and I would stay straight through all the way until the end, and I would be the one to lock the door at the end after midnight, and set the alarm and go home, and, then just have just a few hours to sleep and wake up and do it all over again. And it was exhausting. I mean, there's no lunch breaks, you just eat when you can, and just do your thing. And it can be hard on you, but also full-time jobs mean security and good financials and sometimes insurance and all that. So good luck starting that. I hope it's great. I'm sure they will love you, Tomas. Everybody loves you. You don't just walk into a room and not be loved. Everybody's pro Tomas. here on this channel. Super, the great one. Appreciate the 5. I live in LA and went to WrestleMania last year, and it's crazy a whole year later. I have no desire of making the drive to Vegas. I know, it's doable for me too. I'm in San Diego. It's 5 hours. Just drive right up there. Went to wrestle. I went to SummerSlam 2021. Went to Double or Nothing 2022. Went to Vegas a couple years in a row for wrestling shows. It's fun. Vegas is great. But between the prices and what it costs, not only just to go to Vegas in general, but then the WWE's prices for their tickets and whatnot. At least for us, we're in driving range. But then if you add flights to that, and then creatively, WWE's not really dazzling us. It makes you. It makes going through the trip, the drive, spending the money, and the whole ordeal, it makes it not worth it. But I do want to go to a WrestleMania again. I love going to the conventions. I loved meeting you guys and had a lot of people come up and say hi, and it's fun. It's fun to go and walk out on the streets and see other wrestling fans doing shit and meeting them at conventions and all of that stuff. It's fun, but man, it's a chore financially, and sometimes it's hard to justify, I'm going to just go drop 10 grand on a wrestling show. It's, it's hard to justify that in your head to spend that type of money. Yes, Ryan Adams, thanks for bringing that up. So here's something I wanted to mention. Willie Mack. So there's a situation basically with his contract in AEW. We'll talk about this really quick. This is from Fightful Select, and I quote, Willie Mack what happened first is Willie Mack kind of sounded off on his lack of AEW bookings, so, kind of voicing his frustration, which you can completely understand. And Fightful Select had an update on this. Here's what they said. Willie Mack is still under AEW contract, but it's different than the contract he had been on in recent years. We're told that Willie was on a Tier 0 contract when he first joined, which is basically a paid per appearance gig. However, he was moved to full-time over the last 2 years, which is a salaried position. We're told that recently Mack was put back on a Tier 0 deal. We've not got context as to why that happened, but he's effectively on a per appearance deal. It was claimed by AEW sources that they've been in contact with Mack, but the context of such isn't clear. Mack has had no AEW or Ring of Honor matches at all this year. He can still work indies. Some may remember that there were issues with him working GCW in late 2024 when AEW and GCW had a bit of a falling out at the time. So he is, I guess, frustrated with his lack of use, and I don't really understand the Tier 0 thing compared to a regular contract, but this is another one of these situations that regardless of the company that it's happening in, it's really frustrating to see when a talent is felt like they're handcuffed, when a talent is either frustrated with their use, frustrated with their bookings, and oftentimes request a release and the release isn't granted. And AEW a few times has had situations where they've added time to contracts, they've denied releases, they've made people wait out contracts for no reason. Most recently, Danhausen could be doing his thing on WWE probably almost as much as a year earlier than he was had he not been kind of handcuffed by bullshit contract stuff like this. And whatever the issue here with Willie Mack is, I just hope that AEW would do right by him. If he wants to be used more, use him more, or if he wants to be cut him, whatever. Just when it comes to wrestlers, I've stressed this so often in the past, 15 years, whenever situations like this come up. In WWE years ago, it was Revival, it was Luke Harper, it was people like that. And I always felt like when you're wrestling, you have a window. You got like a finite window of how long you can do this as a profession, how long your body will hold up. And even though wrestlers are being in the ring longer and longer as each year goes by, once you start reaching, in your 40s, you're just burning off years. And when you're just allowing years to fly by and allowing your body to get older and slower, just because, you're handcuffed by another promotion, you're under contract, they're not using you, you want to work, you want to be a wrestler because that's your job, but you can't be because your contract won't allow it, but the company you're working for is not using you either. it's bullshit, So whenever somebody goes to Tony Khan or Triple H or whoever, I mean, provided you're not a Kenny Omega or an MJF or a Roman Reigns or a CM Punk, but I'm talking about second tier talent type of people, or lower, not somebody that you're going to rest the whole, company's shoulders on and you've spent millions investing in. I'm talking about regular ass talent, and they come to you and say, I would like to be released. You should always release them. 100 out of 100 times, because in most of these cases, it's not like, like I said, unless you're a Punk, Tony Khan didn't want to have to fire Punk, but eventually he felt like he had to, but it took him a while, unless you're a talent like that, there shouldn't be that much indecision, but, just pick any talent out of any company right now. Who can you think of? What if, what if JD McDonough, went to Triple H and said, can I be released? I want to just go do something else, Triple H should, yeah, sure, whatever. And I think Tony Khan should do the same thing when someone comes to him. So you don't like to hear those stories, and I think the Danhausen one was one of the more frustrating ones of recent memory because of how, unnecessary it was to, add time to his contract. Just let him go. It's not going to make or break your company one way or the other. So with the Willie Mack stuff, without knowing the details outside of him just kind of being frustrated with, his lack of bookings, I just hope it all works out for him. I hope he gets what he needs. I hope AEW doesn't do any wrong by him. And, if they do have a knack or a history or a tendency to string guys along contract-wise, stop doing that. Just make it right by them. These people are just trying to wrestle, just trying to have a career, and being tripped up by contractual shit when you're not being used is one of the more frustrating things a fan can watch a wrestler go through, and I'm sure it's very frustrating for them. So I'd like to see that shit stop across the board. But AEW seems like they've kind of been guilty of it a few times here in recent memory. Knock that shit off, TK. Okay, thank you for that info, Ryan. That's something we can add to the news here. But breaking news, Mercedes has forfeited her final championship, the APAC Women's Championship. So she dropped another one a couple days ago, down to 2, and down to 1. Now she's vacated that one, and so now she's Mercedes 0 belts, and I think it'll probably wind up resulting in Mercedes being AEW Women's Champion some point this year. Good to see Ramon Coffee back in here. What's up, bro? Dorian, I'm glad you brought that up. Jamie Presley was born in your hometown of Kinston. I did not know you were from Kinston. Guess where I'm from? Greenville. And when I was a kid, we used to drive down to Kinston to watch the Indians games, and I remember watching like Albert Bell play there. Way back in the day. I bought a car in Kinston once. It was about a 30-minute drive, and then she went to ECU, I'm pretty sure, because she would be around the Greenville area. Sandra Bullock was around the area, too. She used to work at Daryl's, a little rib place down by the university. But Jamie Presley, I never met her, but I knew some people that knew her. Some sort of connection from Greenville. But yeah, she got that accent, and I'm so glad that somebody knows my Jamie Presley home training quote. The reason I brought her up is because Elizabeth and I had just started watching. I never watched My Name is Earl, the sitcom. Never watched it. So anyway, we just put it on. I'm like halfway through the first season. It's pretty funny. And I do like Jamie Presley. She was hot in Joe Dirt, too. But I did not realize you're from Kinston. Back down there in that auto mall, that Kinston auto mall. Bought myself a Nissan Sentra there in 1994. After some shithead smashed into my hand-me-down car from my dad and totaled my car. I went and bought myself a Nissan in Kinston. No, I did not see that Ted Jr. will be at WrestleCon. Oh, my God. I hope they troll him. Who's going to wait in line and take a picture with him? Is he going to try to get back in the business now and do appearances? That motherfucker should be in jail. I'm sorry. He did it. Thank you, Harry Rice. I need to ask Elizabeth about AFI. She'll educate me. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with autographs. I just personally don't dabble in them. I'd rather have a picture than an autograph, but I know autographs are big business, and fans who collect them, I mean, you can collect anything. So yeah, I've collected plenty of things. So collecting autographs is not weird by any means. Just for me, I'd rather just get a picture or something a little more personal than just a signature. I don't know why I'm like that. Yeah, Polish Joe. That's one thing I'm going to be taking away from this weekend. I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, you got to be shitting me, man. Yeah, Britt Baker is another good example. Now, again, we don't know the situation there, but it feels like she would wrestle if she could, or she wants to wrestle. She's down to wrestle. I don't think she's got any injuries. She's ready to rock, so to speak, but they're not using her. And I think maybe it's one of those situations where, Tony Khan finds himself in a lot, and all wrestling companies do. Back in WWE and WCW, same type of thing would happen. When you get a talent that's nearing like maybe the end of their contract, or you get the impression isn't going to stick around, why use them? Why have Britt Baker on TV if Tony Khan, for whatever reason, I'm just saying hypothetically here, we don't know, but like hypothetically, if Tony Khan is saying to himself, when Britt's contract is up, she is gone. I know that. I'm not using her. I'll just let her contract run out, but we don't know the whole situation there. We don't know if there's anything else going on. Britt Baker, again, another person who I love. Britt Baker was so nice, and she's such a nice person when I met her, but she has had issues with women in the locker room. And again, we're not in the locker room. I'm not in the women's locker room, so I don't know what these issues are, but she's had issues with women there. She doesn't like them. They don't like her. She rubs people the wrong way. Other people rub her the wrong way. Whoever's at fault, we don't know, but it sounds like she does have issues with getting along with people sometimes. So maybe Tony Khan doesn't want that in his locker room, or people have gone to him privately and say, just don't bring Britt back. We'd rather not have her in this locker room. We don't know. These are all just like, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. We don't know. But if Britt wants to wrestle and Tony Khan is not using her, then just let her go so she can wrestle, And again, this is just all speculation. This is if what we're speculating is true, and Britt is like, I would really like to wrestle. If Britt is staying in active shape, if she's working out, if she's training, she does a lot of other outside things. She might not have stepped in a ring in 4 months for all we know. She might not be training or working to get better at all, or working to be ready, I should say, when her call comes. She might just jump back in the ring when her time is right. Maybe wrestling is not her passion right now. Maybe she's just doing other shit, still getting paid by her AEW contract, because she does have a good deal with them, I'm sure, and just living off that. I mean, some people do that. You're making enough money, like, well, I'm doing fine. I don't need to be fucking busting my ass in a ring 7 hours a day. I'm just going to go shopping. We don't know, but on the other side of that coin, hypothetically, if Britt says, I want to wrestle right now, and Tony Khan is just ghosting her, then that's fucked up. Just let her go. Because if that's what's happening, that means that when her contract is up, she will be gone. So what is the difference if she leaves now or then? You'd save yourself some money, right? By just cutting her now? Like, what if she has 18 months left or some shit? You want to pay her that just to pay her? Just for her to sit there? Either way, she's going to WWE. Are you maybe hoping that something will change in that amount of time and she'll change her mind? Or maybe your relationship will get rectified. You shouldn't be. If you want the relationship rectified, go rectify it. Don't waste people's time, waste years of people's careers. And again, all of this that I'm saying about AEW or Britt's situation at AEW is purely speculation. I don't know shit. So I'm not saying it's this way, it's that way, because unfortunately we live in a wrestling community here that doesn't care about the truth. They care about what they want to be true. What they want to be true is just what they're going to say. And 9 times out of 10, it ain't the real truth. So we don't know what's going on with Britt. But hypothetically, if it's this, then this is how I feel about it. And if she wants to wrestle and she's down to wrestle and she's itching to get back in the ring and Tony Khan's not using her, then let her contractually go somewhere who will use her. TNA, NXT, WWE, they'll probably use her. They'll bring her in. But that's the business we're in. Yeah, I kind of forgot about Britt Baker. I would like to see her turn back up one of these days. Maybe she'll pull a Jericho. Maybe after all is said and done, Tony Khan will call her up and say, hey, any issues that you have with the company or with other women or with me or whatever, I would like to fix. I would like to bring you back in and make you a major part of our women's division again. You were a big deal when you were on top before. We'd like to make you that again. What can we do, to figure it all out? And then if she goes, nothing, I just want to wait out my contract and leave, then I guess that's what she's going to do. Otherwise, release her ass. I don't know anything about Wardlow or Brian Cage. Now, Wardlow's doing the American Gladiator show, and he was backstage, I think, at the pay-per-view, we had heard. But Brian Cage, I have no idea what the update with him is. Yeah, Mercedes Martinez briefly in AEW. There's so many people like that. I thought about when Jericho came back. I thought about Action Andretti the other day. I'm like, man, whatever came of that big win that he had? That's the problem with Jericho. He might go into these things with the best of intentions, working with somebody, but then if he puts them over, any of the people that he worked with and put over back in those days, like the Action Andrettis and whatnot, what did it really get them? Even the fucking sponge bath match with Orange Cassidy or whatever the fuck that was. Cassidy's still just been doing the same shit. He main evented a pay-per-view or two, big win over Mox for the international title, and, had some big moments there. But, OC's in his 40s, man. He's still hands in his pockets, flying around the ring. Still very good, but I think him being the face of AEW, that ship has kind of sailed. So there's a lot of guys that Jericho worked with that, that I think the hope was to elevate them, and they just weren't elevated. Elevate. Oh, never mind. I'm not going to sing Will Ospreay's song. That would be silly. Reading through some more of these comments. You know who is? Friend of yours was a waitress at Applebee's and waited on John Cena and Sheamus. I get so many in both of my jobs on the East Coast and here, because on the East Coast I lived in Wilmington. They film a lot of movies and TV there, so we had movie stars and TV show stars in there all the time. I met like Michael Jordan a bunch of times, met fucking Carlton and all sorts of athletes, everybody you could fucking imagine. Then I moved here to San Diego. And my restaurant is in a really ritzy part of a coastal region where a lot of very, very rich people live and a lot of famous people live. And as a matter of fact, my restaurant, we cook for Tony Hawk. We meal prep for him in the kitchen and then deliver the food to his house once a week. And we get everybody in the restaurant. It's crazy. But I've never had a wrestler in the restaurant. But last night, if any of you work in restaurants, I'm guessing this is nationwide. We have it here in California, but there's now an app. It's called In Kind, where you can basically download it on your phone, and when your server brings your ticket, as long as they're using one of a few compatible POS systems, you can enter in the check number on the app, and then it'll pull up your check there, and you can pay it through the app. So basically, you don't have to do anything to the server. They can drop the check off, and then you can just pay it right on your app and leave. And I had the owner of the app in last night because we use it. And he asked, he goes, how you like an In-Kind? I'm like, oh my God, we love it. He goes, I own it. I'm like, you own it? He goes, yeah, I'm the owner of In-Kind. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. I'm like, where are you sitting? He's like, upstairs. And went over and said hi to him and his family and stuff. So anyway, we had the owner in last night of In-Kind. Little side story. Isn't that nice to hear a restaurant story right in the middle of an NXT pay-per-view? That's what we're doing on this channel. Where was Stephanie's boyfriend at? You mean when she was being hounded by the fans? Well, he's in NXT, and when two wrestlers are together, you're not always going to travel together. You can have completely separate things going on. They're on separate brands. If they're both on Raw, then maybe you'd wonder where he's at. But one's on NXT and one's not. So Stephanie was probably traveling, and he's probably got his ass parked in Orlando. Oh, apparently Sexy Red is there. I'm super interested to see what Javon is going to do in that ladder match. Me too. I have a feeling he's going to, I don't know, what's the word, be like, maybe bouncy. Bouncy might be a word. Yeah, bouncy. He's going to bounce his ass up to the rafters probably. Hope he doesn't die. But anyway, enough flapping my gums. Let's get out of here. I know some of you want to get over there and watch Stand and Deliver, so I hope you enjoy. I'll probably check out a little bit of the show as well while I'm posting this podcast over to the audio feed, so it'll be pushed out to all the podcast sites here in just a little bit. But thanks again for hanging out tonight. I hope you guys have a great Easter Sunday tomorrow, whatever you're doing. Unfortunately, I will not be here for a watch-along. I'm sorry about that, but if there's anything last minute I can do, like if I'm at work in the morning and I can already see a light at the end of the tunnel and I'm going to be home by 2 o'clock, that'll give me like 3 hours to kind of throw something together. Maybe we can come up here and do something, but I can't promise anything because I just don't know. Either way, 100% will be here tomorrow after Raw, Monday after Raw, and I'll have a link up to that probably by tonight. And also, I will have a link up for next weekend's Dynasty stream. And I got something else coming your way, too. And then it's almost WrestleMania time, so shit's heating up. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday evening, and I'll be talking to y'all on Monday. Peace.